Alright, you guys, so this video you're watching now, this short little intro, this is, right now it's November 15th. And then right after this thing cuts, we're going to be going back to November 13th. So right now, this is a little glimpse of the future. I'm letting you know there are 4 videos to this segment. You have, if you're going to watch episode 1, of these my newest updates, there's 4 parts to it. In total, you have about 8 to 9 hours worth of viewing material ahead of you. So I'm saying if you're going to dive into any of this, you need to make sure you start from the beginning and you're not starting from part 2 or part 3 or part 4. If you're clicking on part 2 or part 3 or part 4 and you haven't watched part 1, you need to go all the way to part 1 and start from the beginning and not start later. Otherwise, you're not going to have any idea what I'm talking about. So this is just a little heads up, and I'm going to add this at the beginning of part 1, part 2, and part 3 and part 4 just to let you know you need to go to the beginning. So there you go. Yeah, so there you go. And go. Alrighty, you guys. So, first and foremost, I apologize for the last video cutting off. I imagine if you've watched the last episode, it kind of just ended abruptly, and it ended abruptly because my battery died. I only have 3 batteries for my DSLR, and over a period of all of the recording I did yesterday, I exhausted my last battery. In total, I did 4 hours of recording yesterday, and then a little over 2 hours of recording the day before, and today I have probably around 2 more hours worth of speaking, and then I will be able to conclude everything that I have been wanting to talk about for this past month. This past month everything's been happening as it's been happening, and now that I'm here, today is November 15th, and it's about 10 a.m. Now that I'm here, everything that's happened in the span of about 30 days, it's everything that, if you've watched all my videos, this is me allowing, rather than keeping it all in, just everything that's happened, rather than keeping it all in and not talking about it and not letting anybody know what's going on and just keeping it to myself. This is me allowing all of this energy, everything that I have pent up over the period of this last month, all of the weird things that have been happening, and my observations and how I've my perception on what's really going on around me. These past 8 hours that you've been, by the end of this video, it's going to be about 8 hours total. It's going to be 4 parts, 2 hours for each episode, so 8 hours total. And so this complete 8 hours, this full 8-hour story that I've just shared, it's me releasing rather than holding it all in, this is me letting it all out on camera and then getting it on social media. So rather than just me bearing all of this, whoever watches my videos, you guys can understand what I've been up against, what I've been dealing with, and what my current circumstances are. And you can also hear that I am asking for help. I'm really asking for help in the context of I'm broke as fuck. I'm so broke. I'm borderline starving, and I need resources, money. I need people. If you're watching this video and you have anything that you can spare, whether it's $20, $50, $100, whatever your background is, if you're financially well off, well, $1,000 would pay for my monthly expenses for the next 5 weeks or so. Just $1,000 alone would pay for my food, fuel, and anything else for the next month. And I'm just this is me asking for help. At a minimum, I need people to come forward and either make donations on my PayPal account or contact me and figure out how you can reach me, and then you might be able to help me out in some way. Or if you live in Sedona area and you happen to watch this video and you see me and you've watched you might have watched everything on my channel, you might have watched these past 8 hours, these 4 episodes that I'm going to be getting up, and then you know whatever I shared resonated with you, and you understand my struggle and what I'm up against, and you just, you know, if you live in the Sedona area, you can either contact me, or if you just randomly cross paths, you know, you can always approach me and say hello and let me know that you've watched my videos and you kind of have a general idea about what I'm about, and you know that I'm not a bad guy, you know that I'm not a scary person. I'm pretty laid back, and I'm pretty easy to talk to. Right now I just don't know who I can trust. But if you establish yourself as a friend, and you're not playing this anonymous game with me, and you know my name and you address me by my name, you know, Brandon, hey Brandon, you know, and you want to have a conversation, cool. If you got any resources you can send my way or something you can help me with, cool, that'd be awesome. But if it doesn't happen, well, I'm just letting everybody know now that, like, yeah, I'm like 125 pounds, maybe less, I don't know, right around that ballpark, and I'm broke, and all this time that I'm sharing between these 4 episodes, these 8 hours that I'm speaking and really letting everybody know what's up, it's essentially like my final attempt to call for help and ask for help. Otherwise, you know, it's just a matter of time before either, you know, the bad guys successfully do something to make me disappear or murder me or poison me, or they outright just block off my ability to make any type of money anywhere, and then for me physically, I cross this tipping point where I'm right now I'm able to function. I can function every day in a healthy way, you know, and I can I got my own routine, and I'm fine. Even though I'm getting skinnier and skinnier, I'm fine. But at some point in time in this near future, if I get no help and no support, and I just, you know, my ability to eat and maintain the calories that I'm burning, if all of that gets out of balance, at some point I'm going to cross this tipping point, and then my health is just going to plunge, and it's just a matter of me having a heart attack or some type of organ failure. You know, my vital organs, they start underperforming on account of the stress that my body is going through, on account of me not having enough calories. I don't have enough body fat, and I don't have enough muscle or meat on my bones to where my body's no longer able to pull the proteins and extra reserves on my non-essentials, to where my organs, my body organs, my heart, lungs, liver, you know, my digestive system, my brain, nervous system, all of it is not getting enough. And so at some point it's just a matter of having a heart attack or some other type of medical emergency, or I just outright faint and pass out and hit my head, and that's it. And, you know, slam my head on a rock or the asphalt, and then have brain damage, just, you know, crack my skull or whatever. Anything can happen, and I can already feel the effects of this. And so this is my shout out, you guys. This is me throwing, like playing football, as a Hail Mary. I'm just asking for help one more time. And if nothing happens, well, just don't be surprised if I end up, you end up hearing about me on the news as somebody that's missing or somebody that just died recently. I don't know, man, but I'm getting to that point. You know, that's one thing I need help with, is one way you could help me is by sending some type of resources my way. I need money so I can buy food, fuel, and food for my dog. My dog's almost out of dog food. I only have a few days, I only have like 5 days, 6 days worth of dog food left, and then I have to turn around and spend $60-$70 for another giant bag of dog food, and that's like another, $60-$70 that buys a big bag of dog food, and that feeds Malaki for like a month or longer. But I'm reaching that point too where he's almost out of food. So yeah, it's like if you can help me in any way, some resources through my PayPal link. My PayPal link is on. If you get on my YouTube channel and click on my About Me, and at the very bottom of my About Me, there's a link for my PayPal account, and that's how you can reach me at a minimum. And another step of how I can be helped is for law enforcement, you guys to. I'm really hoping you guys are on my team and that you guys are not against me right now. I have no idea where you guys are at. I don't know if you guys are scared of me, if you guys are trying to get me, if you guys are trying to bury me, but you just don't have anything on me enough to bury me. You don't have enough on me right now. I'm not doing anything to justify you guys coming after me. And I don't know if you're on my team or if you're not on my team. Same with military. I don't know if you're on my team or not on my team, but I know there's been a lot of stuff happening around me, and something has been keeping me protected while I've been moving forward. Ever since I got my van, there's somebody, a group of people, I don't know who, but or God, guardian angels, something has been keeping me protected as I've been proceeding forward, and I've been doing my best to not, I have not been violent. I have not been resorting to theft or anything that would give you guys a justification for coming and arresting me. All I've done is just been speaking on the camera, speaking the truth. As far as I'm concerned, I'm speaking my truth as far as what has happened and my perceptions on the matter, and I'm letting you guys know where I'm coming from and how I see things playing out before me. I'm just trying to do everything I can to communicate with you guys, and I'm hoping, as far as law enforcement and the military, that you guys have my back and you guys are watching out for me, as opposed to trying to set me up and entrap me and then get me locked away or sent away or something, make me disappear. I don't know where you guys are at, but this is, if, in order to help me, you guys need to really shift your focus and priorities on these issues that I've been pointing out. Specifically as a starting point, going after my own father, Jerry Durgan, for what he did to me on June 14th. And, all this bad stuff that has happened as a product of that, and then a whole bunch of other bad stuff that happened in the past, years ago. There's a whole lot of bad stuff that has happened, and I'm looking for justice, some type of justice. I'm looking for these real criminals, these real bad people out there that have done this stuff to me. I'm looking for them to be held accountable for their crimes, and for them to get put in handcuffs just like you guys did to me, and haul them off to jail, send them through the booking process, and get them set on track to going through the judicial system, and then get them sent on to prison or a mental health ward. Whatever crimes they've done. A lot of them have committed murder. A lot of them have been doing bad things to children, as far as pedophilia and all that, child trafficking, sex trafficking, and then attempted murder, gang stalking, destroying my life, slander, all kinds of really bad stuff. Felony charges, serious felony charges, where a lot of these people, you could get them locked away for life, easy, with the stuff that they've done, easy, locked away for life, and then you can ship them off to whatever prison you want, or whatever, if they're outright batshit crazy, or you could just ship them off to a state hospital, and then you can start studying them and researching them like you guys have been trying to do to me, So, with all that said, this is just me asking for help. And so for probably about the next hour and 45 minutes, I'm going to be concluding the things that I was talking about in these past 3 episodes. I'm going to be concluding what's been going on around me and, in this past week. And the video that you watched yesterday, that it cut off because my battery died, and I didn't have any more batteries. I'd already exhausted them from my recordings earlier that day. Yesterday I spent 4 hours speaking on camera yesterday. I literally was just sitting in my van, as you see me now, for 4 hours speaking on camera until I had exhausted all of my camera batteries. And then after I was done with that, I ended up taking Milwaukee for a bike ride, taking care of his needs, and then got him his dinner. I ate my cheese bread and meat sandwich, and then it came down to reviewing all my recording from yesterday. I had to listen to all of it. So last night I watched 4 hours straight of everything I had just spoke about that afternoon and morning. And then the day before that I spoke for 2 hours, a little over 2 hours, and then I invested another 2 hours watching that. So in the past 2 days I've already spent 12 hours between speaking on camera and reviewing my footage. I've already spent 12 hours into this project. And now by the time I'm done recording, I'm expecting about 2 hours, and then that's it. And so that's 14 hours. Okay, so that's just the beginning of this project, and then I got to shift gears and start assembling all of these. It's going to be 4 episodes. Each episode is 2 hours long. Okay. And then so 4 episodes, 8 hours. So all of that's going to take quite a bit of time to get all of it assembled, because I intend to put a little bit of photography, a little bit of my cell phone videos, and maybe some other stuff in some of these. Not going into too much depth, So I gotta get all that done, and then I gotta turn around and go use the Wi-Fi at the library or somewhere and sit patiently and wait for each of these 4 episodes to get uploaded. So that's probably going to be another 16 to 24 hours worth of sitting around patiently waiting. It just depends on what the upload speed is. It could be anywhere from an hour to 2 hours to 4 hours to 9 hours for each episode I'm trying to get uploaded. So just understand, I am on the edge of starvation, and I have nothing, and I am going through this entire process of exerting probably anywhere from probably around 30 or more hours of my time and energy to get these messages to you, to try and help you guys understand where I'm coming from and try and shift your guys' perspective to stop looking at me like I'm the bad guy. If I was the bad guy, why would I be spending so much time and energy trying to communicate with you guys, as opposed, I'm putting all this time trying to articulate and clearly explain what is going on around me and pointing at the direction of the source of the problem, of where it's all coming from. Okay, that's all I'm doing, is just, this is where it's coming from, you guys. I'm just trying to help you see and help all of you break your minds free so you're no longer trapped in these different dogmas and different misconceptions and misperceptions and all these lies and deception that everybody has been plagued with since your childhood. Ever since you were born into this world, you've been getting lied to about everything. And then who you are now today, you are a product of all of those lies and deception and manipulation and indoctrination and brainwashing and programming, all of it. You are the product of all of that. That however old you are, whatever your background is, until the day that your mind breaks free and you wake up and see this world for what it is, however old you are before you reach this point in your time where you just break free, you are the product of all of the brainwashing and all the fucked up stuff that you've been subjected to since birth, before you even had the mental cognition to understand anything that I'm talking about. You went from birth all the way up until your teenage years to about the time you're about 16 to 18 years old, where you're pretty much ignorant and oblivious of what reality or what this world even is. You just accept this world as you see it in front of you, and you're entirely distracted with your friends, your social group, all your friends, your personal interests, sports, hobbies, video games, whatever you're into. For most, not everybody, but for the most part, from your birth through your childhood, through your early teenage years, you are naive and blind to the world you live in. And it isn't until you reach young adulthood, maybe your 20s or 30s, when it just depends on your maturity level, when you actually slow down and start looking at the world for what it is, and then evaluating what's important in this life, and then living your life in accordance to your priorities. You either go deeper into the fucking hole, or you try and break yourself free. It just depends if you have the discernment and the ability to see through all these illusions and everything. It really just depends on you. But overall, who you are today, depending on if you're awake or if you're not awake, you might be waking up now after listening to me speak. You might not have been awake up until this point. But now that you're awake, you got to understand, you got to step back, get rid of your emotions. You got to put your emotions on the side and just look at your life objectively, analytically, from a third-person perspective, as if you are evaluating your own life without any emotional attachment. Just look at where you're standing, look at this world for what it is, and then look at this world based off how you used to perceive it. Look at your entire lifespan from childhood all the way up until where you're at now, and look at the things of how you used to believe, your perception of the world when you're little compared to when you're a teenager, compared to your young adult. Look at how you perceive the world, and then look at how you perceive the world now. And understand, this is just some big transformational shift, and it's just a matter of, once you do become aware of the world, and you become aware of your own soul, and you become aware that God exists, and you become aware of this whole bigger thing beyond yourself, that's when you get to make that choice. Are you going to go deeper and look for the truth and try and set yourself free and break free from your shackles and the demons that are trying to spit venom in your ear and make you scared and make you just go hide in your cave and stop looking at the world because you're afraid? They just want you to be afraid or distracted or consumed with material things or sex or drugs, whatever it is. That's where they want you. Or is that where you're going to go once you do see the world for what it is? Or are you going to try and leave Plato's cave? Are you going to try to break free, do whatever it takes to break free and get away from this dark energy that's trying to keep you as a psychological, spiritual, and physical slave? It's trying to keep you entirely as a battery source, as an energy source for these parasites and these energy vampires, whatever you want to call them. You want to break free from them, or they're just going to siphon your energy all the way until you got nothing left. And then once they get what they want out of you, they just leave you hanging. And then you just feel like you just have this void in your life. You just feel like the whole world has taken everything from you, and you just feel completely drained, where you just don't even care about nothing. You don't want to do nothing at all. And just understand that's what they've done to you. And it's up to you to see that. If they haven't got you all the way and you're still fighting, you still got the energy, good for you. But you need to understand they're siphoning your energy, and at some point they're going to take everything, and then they'll cut the cord, and then you're on your own, and then you're just drained. Your mind is drained, your spirit is drained, and your physical energy is just drained. You just don't care, don't want to do nothing. And they're doing it to everybody. It just depends on what stage in your life you are. And the sooner it really just depends what stage of your life you're in. The sooner you can address this and break free from it, the better, because it's going to be easier for you to rebound from it. But if you're waking up and you're just completely drained right now, and you're just waking up and seeing it for what it is, it's going to be a bit more difficult for you. You're going to have quite a bit more work ahead of you in order to get back to your normal self, but it is possible, okay? So these are things that are happening, and my intention, what I've been trying to do, is help everybody break free, and then understand I'm not the bad one. I'm actually trying to help everybody. I don't know any of you. I don't know your backgrounds. I don't know where you come from. I don't know what your current belief systems are. I don't know what kind of messed up stuff you've done. I don't know what kind of mistakes you've made. I don't know what regrets you have. I don't know any of that, okay? So it's up to you to acknowledge all of these things in your life and make that decision. Do you want to step away from all of this darkness and fucked up stuff and try and find the goodness in life and your purpose in life, and walk back to God, walk back towards God, and build a relationship with Him, and eventually find your way out of this realm? And, if that's where you want to go, well, I'm trying to help you get there. And by getting there, it's important for you to not only hear my messages and the word that I'm trying to deliver, but also once you do hear the word, once you turn off the video, you got to step back and just have a very deep introspective look at your own life. And you really have to decide, are you going to go this way or are you going to go that way? But it's either way, you have to make a choice. And also at the same time, no choice is a choice. If you just you're mentally, you're mentally, psychologically paralyzed to where you're just so confused and have no idea what's what, where you don't even choose any direction. You're essentially just immobilized. You're so psychologically mind-fucked that you can't choose anything at all. And you're just sitting there waiting for somebody to come along, take you by the hand, and just guide you any direction. You're just waiting for somebody to make all of your choices for you and think for you and tell you what to do. You just want somebody to do it all for you. But I'm telling you that's not how it works. You personally have to make that choice, and you personally have to step out of that paralysis. You have to face those demons that are trying to scare the shit out of you, and you have to face all of those fears, and you have to walk the walk. And if you won't do that, well then take your demon's hand and allow the demon to take you down the dark path. Because they will take you down the dark path, and they will take everything they have. They will take everything from you, and then once they have what they want, they will just leave you dry, and then you're just this lost, empty vessel. You're just floating through life until you eventually die. And then once you die, you have had no relationship with God. So you've heard that saying, "Depart from me because I never knew you." If that's, that Bible verse, "Depart from me because I never knew you." That's what you'll hear, because you never had any relationship with God. So He doesn't even know who the hell you are, and okay, on your own, you got no relationship with God. You're not spiritually elevated, so you have no business being in this higher realms, because your vibration, your spiritual vibration, is way too low to even be allowed to go up to these higher layers. You're just, your vibration is, by default, you just can't go that high because you're too gone. And then at the same time, the devil and the demons, they've already got what they want out of you. So you're just this free range floating thing that has been, you know, whatever you want to call it. You're just this miserable soul that's essentially, you're going to be going into hell because you have no place anymore. They've taken everything from you because that's what you chose. You chose it. You had all these opportunities to find the truth. Many people have been given so many opportunities to change the direction they're going. And rather than doing what God is trying to get you to do, you've gone the other direction and have essentially, whatever it is, you've gone the other direction. And at some point in time, you reach this point where the bad guys get what they want out of you, and then they cut you off because you do something that you're not performing up to their standards. So I've already talked about this. You're not performing up to their standards anymore, and they've gotten what they want out of you, and all they can see from you is somebody who's just going to be a liability, or somebody who's going to just take more than you're giving. So they'll just cut you off and just bye, and then you're on your own. And then misery loves company. You're either going to be on your own entirely, or you're going to go find other people that the same thing has happened to, and it's just misery loves company. You're just going to be surrounded by this type of people and this type of energy, and that's all you get. Doesn't matter what you even do or try. It's already done. It's done with. And then, it's unfortunate, but some people, that's what they choose. And then when they die, they essentially go into hell, go to Sheol or into hell, and that's where they're at forever. And whatever they did in life, that karma and all that just starts kicking in. If they did some really messed up stuff, such as raping people, raping children, trafficking people, that stuff starts kicking in effect, going into effect once they go down there. That karma starts getting served and all that. So yeah, this is all some pretty dark, messed up stuff. But again, before I start recording, I pray every time. I have been this entire recording, these 4 episodes. I've been praying before I start recording, asking for Heavenly Father and the high realms, everybody up there, to help guide me with delivering what needs to be said. And all of this is stuff that needs to be said because, like I mentioned, this is. I might, by the time I get all this uploaded and shared on the internet, depending on whether people get on my team or if they don't get on my team, I might not be alive in 3 weeks. Or in a month or 2 months. I might be dead in 2 months. So all of this is stuff that needs to be shared before I move on, right? Before I pass on or whatever. That way, all the warnings are there. Everybody has their warnings. I've literally laid it all out there for you. Unfortunately, I didn't get to complete my entire story because of everything that's been going on, but at least I was able to take the time, muster up the energy, and have the perseverance to speak everything that needs to be said without giving up. And once I'm done with the recording, my intentions are to move straight into the assembly process and then move to getting it all uploaded and on social media. So whoever watches it, it's available for you guys. So that's I am enduring everything I can to make that happen. And I'm also, even though I'm broke, I told you about my emergency funds, even though I should be out panhandling to get, rather than using my emergency funds, I should be out panhandling an hour or two a day to pay for my food as I'm doing this. But right now my mind is entirely focused on getting this done. And God is telling me it's okay. You can tap into your emergency funds right now. Just do it as little as you can. So I'm down, I'm down to like $250 or something, or a little under $250. But I'm just buying a little bit of food here, a little bit of stuff here and there, and it's trickling down. And however much money I have left by the time I'm done with this, well, that's what my emergency fund is. That's what I'm gonna try not to touch anymore. And then once this whole video is done, I'm essentially going to be out panhandling every day or every other day to move forward and try not to starve to death and just try to survive as long as possible. But at the same time, by sharing all of this, my Hail Mary, I'm hoping that whoever watches this, you can hear how critical my situation is and understand how dire my situation is, and that I'm really putting myself in harm's way by being out panhandling, that I'm hoping that somebody, any of you who have any form of empathy in your heart, any of you who can put yourself in my position and understand that what I'm going through can happen to you, and if it does happen to you, and eventually you find yourself in my situation, don't you want to have some type of good karma coming your way where you help me out, and then God and them might help you out and help you get out of your situation? But if nobody helps me, who's to say once I die, things in this world just start going south, and then everybody ends up in this crazy fucked up situation, and then everybody's relying on everybody's kindness, but all of a sudden nobody trusts each other. The next thing you know, you are in a much worse situation than I am, and you literally can't trust anybody because all the good people are going to be gone. All right, all the good people are going to be gone. Nobody trusts anybody. So all this help I've been asking for, you never tried helping, you never helped me, so karma's going to come full circle. So whenever it is that you end up in the position, people are just going to walk past you, they're going to ignore you, and you're going to end up going through the same exact shit that I'm going through, but probably worse, because karma gives back in both positive ways and negative ways, and if I go through all this time and energy trying to ask for help and nobody helps me, it just comes around, right? But at the same time, if you're a friend and you're somebody who has empathy and you want to help me, understand any help you give me, karma and Heavenly Father will see you helping me, and things might come back to you. You might, at some point a little bit later down the road, you might get some, I'm just throwing out an example. I'm not saying it will happen, but it's a matter of you having faith and you taking that gamble just to see if it will. But say, for example, you gave me $50 and Heavenly Father and my friends and the watchers are watching that. Who's to say a week later or a couple weeks later when you're least expecting it, suddenly $100 comes your way, or $300 or $400 comes your way, or maybe not even a money, but something that you really want or need or that you're looking for in life, something comes to you and you just automatically know it's the karma, good karma, you're paying it forward. God, everybody who's watching it, they're giving you something in return because they saw you help me. Right? As an example, and this applies all across the board. You help people and you do something with them without expecting anything in return. That's the key point. You're not expecting anything in return, but you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart. And if you help people out of the kindness of your heart with no backroom intentions, you're just doing it because you want to be nice, and you see somebody who is in need, and you're not expecting any type of glorification, you're not expecting some compensation in return, you're not expecting people to show up and give you an attaboy, you're just doing it because you know it's right. And if you do that, and then somebody's watching, how do you know something at some point comes back, and it comes back to you in a very positive way? You can hear me? Right? So that's all set. So all of this is the stuff that I really need to throw out there. And now I'm going to shift gears, and I'm just going to backtrack to where I ended on the last episode where the video cut off, right? And I was talking about this woman, when I made it to Cottonwood, I was broke, right? I'd had a little bit of fuel left and I needed to get food. And when I got there, I think it was Friday. I believe it was Friday when I went into Cottonwood. And so then, I told you about the girl singing and then that guy that laid down. I'm gonna touch that again, but I have to backtrack just a little bit because I forgot about something that's kind of important to mention. When I had left Sedona, I'm leaving from Sedona, and my intention is to go to Cottonwood, which is like a 20-minute drive away. It's a different town. Cottonwood is a town, Cottonwood, Arizona. And there's a town, and then there's a Walmart there, and there's a number of grocery stores. Where in my mind, I was planning on going to the Walmart and panhandling and trying to repeat the fortune that I had up in Page, Arizona, where I made over a span of 10 days, I made over $300 panhandling, right? So I was just trying to repeat that so I can move forward with my life. And so I'm driving into Cottonwood, and before I go to Walmart, my intention was to just drive straight to Walmart and start panhandling as soon as I got there. But as I was coming into Page, some energy was telling me to go right instead of going left. And so I went right, and I went and stopped at a city park. There's a city park in Cottonwood. It's near. And I parked in some shade at the city park. And literally, like, as soon as I parked, and as I was stepping out of the van, because I was gonna park there and get Malaki out and go take him for a little walk and let him go to the bathroom, right? And literally, as I'm stepping out of the van at the city park, this little old lady just comes out of nowhere. Like, she comes from my right, and she walks in front of the van, and she sees my dog, and she starts commenting on my dog. And I guess she used to have a Malamute, or used to live around Malamutes, like Malamute to breed. And that was kind of like this thing where she just commented on Malaki and mentioned the dogs, her history growing around Malamutes. And then the next thing I know, she just starts opening up and telling me all kinds of stuff. She starts telling me things about Cottonwood, as if she was expecting me and she knew who I was. I don't know if that's true, but she was speaking to me like as if me being there, all of a sudden she was updating me and telling me about types of messed up stuff that is taking place in Cottonwood. She tells me about how corrupt and messed up the law enforcement is in the area. I don't know if it's true, but that's what she was saying. She told me that the law enforcement in Cottonwood was all entirely corrupt. I have no reason to believe one way or the other. Okay, I'm hearing you. And then she's telling me about all these, like, retirement homes for elder care. People, these retirement homes where old people are living there, and you have caretakers taking care of all these older people. Well, she's telling me about how corrupt all of these retirement facilities are, and all these caretakers are, and they're abusing these old people who are not being given their prescriptions on time, or they're being given the wrong prescriptions, all this whole mess. And they're not doing things as they need to, but they're making all kinds of money doing it. And she talked about, she used to be a caretaker, I guess, and she had at one point in her life confronted these people, and they pretty much put her in her place. And so all these bad things were continuing to happen as she was watching it. So from what she told me, she quit her job and walked away because she morally and emotionally and spiritually, she just couldn't be in that environment anymore, watching this stuff happening. And then she's being treated the way she is, as if she's being gaslighted and treated as if she's wrong, the one in the wrong. And she knows in her heart that what's happening is what's wrong. So she's just all of a sudden telling me all this stuff. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know anything about her, but she's telling me all this. And as she's telling me all this, there's like little tears coming, like she's doing everything she can to not cry, but there's tears coming out as she's talking. And at some point, like, she moves on and tells me that she's homeless, this little old lady. She's homeless. She had been living in some, like, a mobile home or an RV or something, been renting it, and she got evicted out of that because she had a little bird. She had a bird or something, like a pet bird. And whoever it was, her landlord was literally evicted her because she'd been told not to allow her little bird to fly around in the RV or the mobile home or something. Was told you have to keep it in the cage and it can't fly around. But she didn't listen, and then at some point the landlord caught her with the bird flying around, and then she got evicted. And so this lady, she told me I think she said it was like her 9th or 10th day being homeless. Like, now she was living out of her car. So she was parked next to me, and her car is literally full. Like, if you think about the driver's seat and then the passenger seat, full of her stuff all the way to the rim of the dashboard, of just all of her belongings. Entire vehicle is just full of her belongings. And she's just telling me she's homeless, and she has nowhere to go, and she's telling me how corrupt the entire town is. Whether, I don't know the truth. I don't know anything about Cottonwood. That's not the point of all this. But she just told me, like, her life story. Not her whole life story, but she's telling me, like, what the hell's going on. And then by the end of it, she started asking me a little bit about myself. Nothing really personal, but, just kind of asking me a little bit. And I told her, I just came here from Oregon. I'm planning on staying in the area for a while. And then so she started throwing out ideas on places that I can camp and sleep safely. And she's like telling me that there's this this gravel dirt road out in BLM, out in the desert, and that's where she's been going. She's like, that's where I've been sleeping. I don't know if that's where she has been sleeping. If it is, okay. But she was telling me that I could go out there too, that she said there's a bunch of vehicles out there that are also camping, and that it's pretty quiet and seems pretty safe and all this stuff. And she's like trying to tell me exactly where it is. You know, if she's, I don't know if she was a good person or a bad person, you know. I don't know if something had told her to come talk to me. As soon as I got there, she literally came directly to me and just started telling me all this stuff. As much as I want to believe she is a good person, there might also be things about her that she's not, and the things that she's going through might be a product of the bad karma or consequences of things she's done. You know, where she's done things and now God is making her go through this difficult period in her life. I don't know. I don't know anything about her. But the fact that she's trying to bait me out to this place, telling me I go sleep out in this dirt road outside of town, just outside city limits. You know, give me instructions there, and then she's telling me that there's the recreation center that was right nearby, and they have showers and a place to take a shower and clean up and stuff. And she says she has her own recreation pass and she can bring guests. She can allow one guest to come in who can go and take a shower. She's like, oh, I can put you on the list as my guest, and then you can go and take a shower whenever you want, or whenever I'm here, we meet up, I'll go in, and then you can come in, I'll sign you in, and she's like, we can go in together, and I'll sign you in, you go take a shower, and then you go do your thing. And I was like, she's being very awfully friendly for someone who I don't know, and just telling me all this stuff, even though supposedly she doesn't know who I am, but I literally just got to town. I've never been here before. I don't know anything about this town. I've never driven through it, and this is just the first place I decided to stop, as opposed to going Walmart, and this lady comes out of nowhere and is just telling me all this stuff. Okay, and then, she tells me all that. And then at some point the conversation ended, right? We kind of I shook hands with her, we shook hands, she told me her name. I ended up giving her, I went into my van and wrote on a piece of paper, I wrote my YouTube channel and my name, and I gave it to her because, she didn't know who I was, and she was a genuine person who was going through a difficult time. I asked her if she had access to internet. She did. She said she can go in the library and get on the computer whenever she wants. And so I was like, well, do you like stories? And she's like, yeah. Well, I was like, well, I've written a very long story, and if you want a cool story to read or something, something that my story is unique, and whatever she's going through, my story might help her in some way by helping, at least help her stay in a positive attitude or something. I don't know, but I directed her towards my YouTube channel. I just gave her, my YouTube channel and how to find my story, and then from there we parted ways. And I haven't talked to her since. I saw her a few different, I think 2 different times over a period of the 4 days that I was in Cottonwood. I saw her, but she never approached me again thereafter. Every time I saw her, she was either looking the other direction, or she was kind of evading me a little bit, just kind of keeping her distance. So she never, even though I was making myself clear, I was walking around with Malaki, she could have literally got out of her vehicle and approached me as I told her she could. But she never did that from that point forward. Okay, so that's a thing. That's a variable. Another weird oddity. When I'm talking about oddities and strange things. Okay, so that happened when I first got to Cottonwood. And another thing that was worth mentioning, right when I started getting into Cottonwood, I noticed 2 airplanes taking off from an airport. Okay, I just noticed them. 2 little single propeller airplanes take off from the airport, and I noticed them take off. I saw them in the distance, and I do pay attention to all aircraft, helicopters and airplanes. I'm always watching them, just seeing what they're doing and what type of aircraft are flying around me and stuff. I don't accuse every aircraft. I don't blindly associate every aircraft in the sky as something to do with following me, but I do pay attention to aircraft looking for the same aircraft. It's wondering if the same aircraft with the same paint, the same patterns of paint, same model and everything, if that aircraft, looking for those, if they are the ones that pass by me number of times, okay? So I see these 2 aircrafts take off, and then I eventually make it to the park, and as I'm getting out, literally as I'm getting out of the van, and right as that little lady is walking up to me, this airplane is slowly flying directly towards me I had a low altitude, you know, single propeller airplane, and he flies directly over my head as I initiated conversation with this woman. And this airplane, it's a white airplane. It has on the tips of the wings is like a blue paint pattern. So on the tips it has blue paint, you know, like it's white and blue. Okay, so I see it, and then it flies past really slow and low, and then it kind of goes over, and then the sound kind of drowns out a little bit. And then as I continue talking to this lady, the airplane flies a loop, and it comes around again, and it flies directly over my head, slow and low. And then as I talked to this lady for a period of about 15-20 minutes, this plane flew over my head probably 6-7 times or more. I don't know, I wasn't counting, but it was literally flying over my head as I'm talking to this lady. Let's fly in loops really low and slow. Okay, so that's something I'm like, as I'm talking to this lady, I'm looking up at the plane, taking note of it, continue talking to this lady. Here comes the plane again. I see it approaching, I'm watching it, and it goes by, and then okay, this is weird. Immediately I'm in Cottonwood, now I'm getting this weird energy now that I'm here, okay? So this is all stuff that's worth talking about, right? So eventually I leave the park, and you know, I leave the park, that lady wandered off, I walked my dog, got him his energy, you know, he got his bladder emptied, he went pee and went poop and did all that, got his business taken care of. So then in my mind it's like, well, my original intent was to go to Walmart and start panhandling for like an hour to hour and a half, and then I would take a break and then maybe do it again the following day and then see how how much money I got, and then I would assess my situation from there. So I left the park and drove all the way to Walmart, right? And then when I got to Walmart, there's that girl singing and playing on her guitar, right? Which was really weird. And I already talked about this. You know, that girl named Lexi who stole money from me back in 2018, stole like $400 from me. And I didn't, you know, just literally that, as soon as I saw that girl, immediately that girl back from 2018 her name was Lexi, immediately her energy flooded into my mind where all of a sudden I'm replaying and having these flashbacks about all that shit that happened back then. Immediately, that's what I'm thinking as I'm pulling into Walmart, driving past this girl. I'm not saying that it was her, but considering all the shit that's going on around me, it could be. It could have been her in a disguise. It's been 6 years since I've seen her, and I've only met her just those few days that her and Robert showed up and we went on that road trip. And at that time, she had her hair, when I met her back in 2018, she had her hair was only like this short. She had shaved off all of her hair at some point for whatever reason. And when I met her, she looked like a boy. I don't know why Robert was really attracted to her. I don't know what he saw in her. But when I saw her, she looked like a boy with boobs. You know, she looked like literally looked like a teenage boy with boobs, and that was it. If she didn't have boobs, she would have literally looked like a boy. I don't know why Robert found her attractive, whatever. But what I'm saying is, she had short hair at the time, so when I'm saying here in Cottonwood, Arizona, when I was pulling into that Walmart, this girl, she had a gypsy hat. You know, the gypsy have their own type of style of clothing, gypsies. Her entire outfit was like what a gypsy would wear. And I think she had longer hair, so I would not know what Lexi would look like if she had longer hair. So I'm not saying it was her, but the energy was, that's all I thought about when I saw this individual. So, and I told you I went and sat. I sat for like half an hour, 40 minutes, just waiting for, within, in a distance, not lurking on her or putting pressure on her. I was just observing, and I was essentially waiting for her to clear out. How long can she really stand there and sing? How long are you going to stand there before your vocal cords get tired and you want to take a break and go do something else? So I was patiently waiting for her to finish up what she was doing. Eventually she would get tired or bored, or she would get as much money as she needed for the day, and she would move on, and then I would go eventually, pretty quickly. I'd be ready to go, and I'd go step in, and then I would put in my hour and a half and then clear out. But I already told you, if you watched that last episode right at the end, right when, as I'm waiting there, it's been like half an hour, 45 minutes, all of a sudden this other guy comes out of nowhere he's wearing like, if you think about gypsies, you got the female gypsies, the type of clothes that female gypsies wear, and then you got the type of clothes that like male gypsies, that's type of stuff they wear. They got like their weird little leather hat, or the guys wear like a little bit of a taller hat. And it just, I don't know, and like their little leather vest, just sleeveless. I don't know, this weird guy, he looked really weird. His whole arms were all tatted out, but He came out of nowhere. They had a small talk, like 30 seconds at the most. And then she cleared out. She went and got in her car and drove off. And then that guy literally went where he stood. You know, he went exactly where she was at, where she had been playing her guitar. He went and laid down in the gravel right there and just laid down there. He wasn't even panhandling. He just laid down in the gravel and acted like he was passed out, you know, like acting like he was somebody who was either drunk or somebody that was just doped out on heroin, who had just like essentially passed out in the gravel right at the entryway of Walmart. And he literally just laid there, and I sat there for probably another 20 minutes just kind of in disbelief, like, what the fuck? Just like, this really just happening? This is what's happening right now? And I'm thinking about all, you know, it's not just this, but at the same time, all of these memories are just flooding through my brain about everything that had happened in Page, as far as these attempts on Malaki's life with trying to poison him, everything, and then all these stuff from the past is all just flooding through my brain as far as the experiences I've gone through while being gang stalked, and then here right in front of my eyes, it's happening again. And I can see what they're doing. It's like, okay, well, they didn't succeed at poisoning me in Page. They couldn't kill my dog, and they didn't get me with anything. So now their next strategy is to literally just block my ability to stand somewhere where I would probably make enough money to continue proceeding forward. They're literally just keeping somebody there so I can't do anything about it. Right? So sat there for 20 minutes, and I'm understanding what is happening, and I'm doing everything in my power to keep my emotions in check, to not allow myself to just go into a rage or get super angry or upset and just fly off the handle. It's like, no, and this energy's coming into me. It's like, it's okay, Brand, just stay calm. Right now, just observe and learn. Just see it. You see it. It's happening right in front of you, man. Now you see it. You can see it. And as we're going forward, you can just, don't forget it. At some point, just keep surviving. At some point, if they keep doing it, if they keep doing these things to you, just keep documenting it all. Keep documenting it all. And then at some point, we're going to turn around, set up the tripod, and then get my camera rolling, and I'm just going to sit down inside my van as I'm doing now, and I'm going to let everybody know. Tell everybody what they're doing, trying to starve me out. Okay? So, this is getting weird, right? If this is all new information, this is stuff you've never heard of before or something, this is a whole entirely different side of the coin that you just have not had access to, and you're hearing all this and it's making sense in some way, and it's resonating with you in some way, and it's really disturbing and fucked up, but you're getting it? Yeah, okay. I'm hoping that's where we're at, okay? That's what I'm just trying to show you what I'm going through and what I'm dealing with. It has nothing to do. They're trying to illustrate me as somebody with a mental health disorder. They're trying to tell all you guys I'm a schizo. But is that really true? If I'm able to just sit here and speak for, this is day 3 of speaking, but altogether speak for 8 hours straight and just delivering this very clear and easy to understand message, even though it's a lot of information and it's taking a lot of time to articulate this whole thing to where you can see the entire big picture, to where I'm giving you all of the pieces to this puzzle, where after enough time, by the time I'm done speaking in this video, you can put all these pieces together and be like, holy shit, I get it. You get it, right? Hopefully. Okay. So I have more to share, more messed up things, but this, I'm just reminding you that I'm hoping by now you're starting to get it, and now I have a few more things to really get into, and then when I'm done, you're going to be like, wow, Brandon needs help. Like, hopefully that's where, by the time this ends, hopefully you are in your mind like, Brandon needs help, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to help him. Whatever obstacles I face, I'm going to try and contact Brandon, even if it takes multiple email attempts, even if it takes multiple tries to reach him, I'm going to try and reach him and get him some resources. Even if I don't maintain a conversation or have a conversation with him, I heard Brandon's message, here's his PayPal link. We know where he's at physically. We know he's in Sedona. You could literally just drive to Sedona and find me and hook me up with some money. And then any resources I get, I am prepared to turn around and just continue speaking. Just give my time to you guys and share what I know. That's what I want to do. You guys help me, I help you. You guys help me, I share whatever I can. You guys help me, you ask me questions, and I will answer those questions to the best of my ability. That's what I want. I'm not here to just take. Gimme. No. whatever you give, I give back. So that's how I work. So I'm right now, like I've said, I feel like I've said what I really need to as far as the really meat and bones, right? Like I feel like you should understand what I'm talking about, kind of, maybe, as far as people following me around, gang stalking, people trying to starve me out or poison me and stuff. And this right now, as far as me panhandling, I am describing their strategy and tactics as far as what they're doing to try and succeed with their goals. Okay, so I'm gonna pause real quick, take a breath, kind of just, take a breath, step out of the van, take Milwaukee for a short walk, and then I'm gonna just finish up this last bit. I'm gonna tell you this last chunk of stuff that's happened, and then I'm gonna have my conclusion, and then that's it. Okay, so there we go. Whoops. Okay, guys, I'm trying to conclude this within like the next 40 minutes or so. So it's been about half an hour since the last cut, so I've got my mind organized and my thoughts gathered. Leaving off from Walmart, talking about that guy that was laying in the ground like he was passed out, like in the gravel, blocking me. He was blocking me, right? So as we proceed forward, I'm going to be sharing my perspective as these things are happening. But for you as the viewer, try and use your imagination while I'm speaking and pretend you are one of the bad guys and you are somebody who is trying to, say you're being patient, whether this takes like a few days or a few weeks. You're playing this game against me like chess, right? And so the bad guys are following me, right? So say you're a bad guy and you have multiple people on your team where you have people that are literally just following me around in the distance. They look like just like anybody else. They're dressed like anybody else you see out and about. So there's no way of knowing that they're not a normal person. They're blending in just like any person just going about their business in town or wherever I'm at. Okay, so they look like everybody else, but there's people who have eyes on me and they're just watching my movements, so they know exactly where I'm at and they know exactly when I'm leaving and when I'm moving, and they have people follow me to my wherever I'm going to. And then while I'm stationary, they have people possibly listening in. They have some type of technology or an ability or abilities to use their electronics, computers or something that has some type of software that allows them to directly tap into my phone and tap into the microphone on my phone, or maybe they have secretly hidden microphones or cameras in or around my van. For example, when I go take Milwaukee on a walk and we disappear, they can have somebody, they got lookouts, so they know when there's witnesses around. But when there's no witnesses around, they can literally have somebody just come open my door. They know how to pick the lock or something. They open the door, hide their little microphones, or if the microphone's already in and they just change the batteries real quick and then they leave, and then the microphones just keep rolling 24/7. And then all they just got to do is just have somebody within range to where they can listen in on that, within reception range, whatever that means. So use your imagination and pretend you're in this circle and you have people out there on the street who are dressed up like normal people, and you also have people dressed up like homeless people, and then you also have, your regular police officers and stuff. I'm not accusing police officers of anything or the other, but I'm aware that there are bad apples amongst many different agencies, and so those bad apples might always be nearby, ready for that special call. If for some reason these gang stalkers can somehow trigger me into doing something that would otherwise be considered a public disturbance and or committing an act of violence or something, I'm lashing out at somebody that I perceive is stalking me or following me. They'll have somebody call 911. Oh, there's this crazy guy and they're creating this huge thing, and they'll make it this just huge blown up issue. And then they'll have that bad apple, that officer who's a bad apple. He'll be the one who shows up, and then he'll get in the middle of it, and eventually he'll get my name and information, and then anything can happen from that point forward. This bad apple, if he shows up and say the people pretend to be calling 911, pretend to be calling calling a 911 dispatcher, but they're not actually calling 911. They're calling somebody who might be pretending to be, or they're just calling somebody who's connected to their circle, and that person relays to the bad apple officer, and then the officer shows up. So like the real 911 dispatch doesn't know it's even happening, and real officers, there might be a diversion somewhere where other officers are who are on duty, they're all occupied with different calls. So this officer shows up, and then when he pretends to be talking on the radio, he might not even be pushing the button. So he's saying all this stuff, and then he's like, all of a sudden, he's telling me that I have a warrant, even though I don't have a warrant, but he's telling me I have a warrant or whatever, and then all of a sudden he's telling me I'm under arrest. Okay, so he puts me in handcuffs. Who's to say as soon as he puts me in handcuffs, he doesn't just drive off somewhere, not to jail, not to their county jail or anything, but he drives directly to whoever he's connected to, and they literally just hand me off to the bad guys, and then the next thing you know, I disappear. You know, the next thing you know, I literally disappear, and you don't even know what happened to me. Like, there's no report, there's no police report. You know, it could literally be off the grid where I disappear and there's no police report, no 911 call, nothing. That could be a scenario. Or they could literally just put me directly into the system with just these fabricated charges or whatever. You know how I told you about when I was back in Moab at Dead Horse State Point, and there's that campground host that came out of nowhere and accused me of sleeping there for 3 nights in a row, even though I didn't, even though the previous night was my first night even sleeping in that general area, but I was out in BLM, I was not within the boundaries of the state park. So this guy, you know, back then, that guy in Moab at the Dead Horse State Point, he accused me of all these things that didn't even happen, right? And then he told me not to deny it, but I didn't have anything to do with what that shit's. You know, I called him out on it, and you know, I explained all that. So I'm saying, if somebody in that type of position can literally just make stuff up and kick me out, who's to say this worst case scenario of what I just talked about, as far as me getting set up, as far as some bullshit interaction with some people stalking me and they provoke me to something, just some type of public disturbance that initiates this interaction with this bad apple law enforcement officer. And then this officer can literally make stuff up, right? He makes stuff up, makes up fake charges, and then once they put me in the system and separate me from my dog, everything just evolves into a much worse situation, especially if they just start pulling up my previous incident from 2019 when I got arrested. And then all of that was a bunch of lies. There was all types of lies written within the police reports. For example, I mean, if you've watched all 4 of these episodes, you caught that bit where I talked about the day that I got arrested, you know, the day when the Redmond Police Department swarmed me in all different directions. And you remember when I told you I was talking on the phone with that one officer who I had been trying to contact for like 2 months straight, trying to get his help. This specific officer from the Redmond Police Department had been my employer for 2 months as, you know, while I was a cadet when I was 18, 19, and 20 years old. Or when I was 19 and 20 years old, this guy was my employer who gave me my training, who went with me to my police competition and stuff. So you have all of this stuff that happened then. Hold on, I've got to pause. I got to figure out, where was I going with this? I was going somewhere with this. I'm going to have to pause it. I'm just stumbled for a second. Yeah, okay, I got it. So, you know, sometimes I told you, sometimes I just get this, you know, spiritual warfare. I was really going somewhere, and I was about to hit like a really powerful nail and, you know, hit that nail on the head with my hammer. I was really about to just dial it in, and then all of a sudden, you know, this dark energy was just like, they just removed my train of thought, and it was just gone. But I got it. It took me like a minute and a half to figure out what I was talking about. So, you know, I'm talking about how right now the bad side, they're trying to set me up, and I'm talking about saying a bad apple law enforcement officer being the one who shows up and literally making things, you know, they put me under arrest, and then make up these fake charges to keep me locked up, and then at some point they start digging up my past as far as these past police reports, these past medical examinations and reports and stuff that I had while I was incarcerated back in 2019, 2020. So I said that back then all of those reports that were written against me, it was just loaded with lies. And not only lies, but things that I had talked about, things that I actually had said. They twisted my words. They took things out of context. They took just bits and pieces of different fragments of different things and lumped it all together as if it was one big story. But what I was saying is, you remember that section of my video, if you've watched if this is the fourth, I got 4 episodes and this is the 4th one you've watched. If you remember back when I was talking about the day I was arrested, right? I told you that day I was arrested, and that one officer who had been my previous employer back when I was a cadet, back in 2008 and 2007 and 2008. He had been my employer, and so fast forward to 2019, that same officer was still working with the Redmond Police Department, and he'd moved around in different positions, and now he was a detective at that time. And so before my arrest, before I had went and did what I did in California, which was the reason, the justification for them to come arrest me, before all of that, remember when I had turned in my report and had tried surrendering my firearms and had gone to the police department and the FBI multiple times? Well, I had specifically asked for this police officer, who is now a detective, who was once upon a time my employer when I was a cadet. I had been asking for him, and he would for all this time I had been asking for him, and I could never be allowed to have a face-to-face conversation with him. He was completely off the grid, completely missing up until the day that I was arrested. And it was that same officer who was the one who called my father's phone, which was the phone I was holding when he called me. And I thought that he was just going to show up at the house and we were going to have a conversation about what happened in California. I had a suspicion I was going to be arrested, but I didn't know if it was actually going to go down that day, or especially not the way that it did go down. For all I knew, it was just that officer that was going to show up. We were going to have a conversation, and it was going to go one way or the other. But instead, that officer, rather than ever having a conversation with me beforehand, when I was trying to get help and calling these people out and trying to get help the correct way, he was MIA. He was missing the entire time. But the day that I got arrested, after they entrapped me to go, they trying to starve me out, and I actually went and did what I did, is just as a wake-up call to everybody. It's like, yeah, I'm serious, you guys. But it was that officer who called my father's phone rather than calling my phone. He called my father's phone, and then, eventually he baited me outside, and that's when I saw him at the end of the block at the corner looking around the house, waiting to see if I would come out. And then as soon as we made eye contact, that's when all the other officers started swarming in. Well, remember, when I was on the phone, I was on my father's phone. It was Jerry Durgan's phone. Well, remember, I turned and, all these officers are showing up. They got AR-15s. There's patrol cars coming in. And people with handguns and all this stuff. It was probably like 15 of them or more. Around 15 officers in all different directions. But I looked back and I saw Jerry Durgan standing at the front door of the house, looking through the side glass window, watching this all go down. Like, he's super excited that, oh, we got him. Get him, boys. I'm just watching this, and I'm hold the phone in my hand. So like I said, I turned around and walked back to the front door. I wanted to hand him the phone, but I tried to open the door, but he had locked it. He had locked me outside to allow this to happen. But I was like, tell Dad, don't you want your phone? I'm waving at him, you want your phone? So he just opens it up a little bit, takes the phone and closes the door. And I told you I turned around and walked back out there and lifted my shirt to show him I didn't have a gun. And I spun around, so, I have no intention of hurting any of you guys. I've been trying to talk to you guys. Okay, so where I'm going with this is, after I was arrested, right, and once I was locked up and incarcerated, where I was an inmate within Deschutes County Jail, at some point in time, I was allowed to read, this was a few weeks later, but at some point in time, I was allowed to read the Redmond police reports. There's multiple officers who wrote their own version of what happened during my arrest, because they submit the report, which is used during my case, during my judicial hearings and court case and all that stuff. But when I was finally allowed access to read those, I'm just picking one thing out of the hat. I'm not going into detail about every little thing. It's one thing. But on one officer's report, I don't believe it was the same officer who I've been trying to contact. It was one of the other officers who was there. This officer literally wrote that I tried running into the house. They said that I tried to escape and to retreat inside of the house, but they said the door was locked, so I turned around and came back and let them get me. So there's all these little things, anything as small as that, but they illustrated me as somebody that was just a loose cannon, just completely psychologically off my rocker. They treated me as if I was the dangerous person, as if I was the bad guy, and they used their words by writing reports and making stuff up and removing my ability to defend myself by not having no witnesses who are standing on my side to say that's not true. All I had was my word versus all of them. Everybody involved, it was me versus everybody else. And as far as I could see nobody on my side. I could see nobody standing up on my behalf, trying to defend me and speak up for me, saying, no, you guys are setting him up. This is a lie. That's a lie. Not one person. Everything that happened to me is just everybody against me. And so what I'm saying is I have learned my lessons as far as what happened back then, and I'm fully aware of what's on the table right now. And I'm talking about all these weird little instances that have happened with these weird encounters with people, and I understand what they're trying to do. And so I am doing everything in my power to just not do much, man. Just take care of my dog, make sure he's happy and healthy, make sure he's getting his exercise, make sure I'm maintaining a relatively healthy routine where I'm not out creating mischief or doing anything stupid or interacting with strangers as much as I'm trying to avoid interacting with people I don't know, because at this stage in the game, this big elaborate spiritual warfare and this giant battlefield, multi-dimensional battlefield here in this world and on this other layer, this spiritual realm, whatever you want to call it. There's like dual realities stacked on top of each other. And I'm doing everything in my power to avoid all people, not because I'm afraid of people, but it's essentially because at this stage in the game, for me being me and this path I've walked down, I can literally not identify a friendly person from somebody who's an enemy. I cannot identify somebody who has good intentions versus somebody who has a mask on, who I know nothing about, but they're trying to pretend, they're trying to put off good vibes, or here's some money, I'm just trying to help you out, I'm here to listen or whatever. They try to put off that energy as if I can trust them, but as soon as they walk away, they pull out their phone and they communicate with something, and then they put something else in motion, waiting to try and entrap me or poison me or try and murder my dog. Any combination of this. Whatever they perceive they can get away with, they're trying anything and everything. And if they can get me with one of them, with one thing, that's probably enough for them to just carry out all this other messed up stuff that I've talked about. And I'm saying if they end up succeeding, where they set me up and I fall for some stupid bait, where I get some public disturbance between some random stranger that's been fucking with me and stalking with me, and they got me, where this random bad apple officer comes in, and then things either go this way or that way. But otherwise, if they put me into the system directly, they have all these reports that they've written from 2019, 2020, and whatever else they're going to pull on me since I've been released from jail. I don't know. Whatever they have on me over the past 4 years, I don't know. Whatever they've been trying to dig up on me, no clue. But they'll pull up all of this stuff, and all of these reports, including the medical reports, are loaded with lies and misconceptions to illustrate me as somebody that's just psychologically fucking crazy. That's exactly what they're trying to do. And if they end up taking me into custody, that's exactly the strategy they're going to pull. And there's no way, I will not ever be allowed to have a jury trial. I will never be allowed to step foot in a courtroom and be allowed a fair trial in front of a jury who are willing to sit and listen for 50 fucking hours or more about hearing my story. They're not going to do that. They're just going to use the reports that they've written. They're not going to allow me to speak. And if I persist in trying to defend myself, if I persist in that saying, yes, I want a jury trial, I want a fair trial, my own public attorney will pull this magical little card which is the very card they can pull at any point in time if they want to revoke your constitutional rights, or Constitution is an illusion, because if anybody out in this world is trying to actually go after people within the system that are sellouts, that are in, you know, sellouts who are currently in a high position of power, and you have caught them red-handed with a crime, the system will protect that person rather than listening to you, and rather than delivering justice to this bad person. They will revoke your constitution, and they will literally, their own public attorney, your own public defender, your own attorney will turn around to the judge behind your back in a private meeting, and they will say that you are too mentally incompetent and you are unfit to stand trial. Therefore, you will not be allowed to go to trial. And the next thing that happens is they have some psychiatrist, somebody that's paid by them, you know, somebody that they hire who have instructions, who has been given instructions to sit down in a private room with you and to ask you a variety of questions. And depending on how you ask these questions, your meeting might end abruptly. You might think, you know, your meeting might be 2 hours long or within a half hour long. They gave me multiple evaluations, and my first one was like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I thought it was the doctor or psychiatrist that I talked to for 2 hours. I tried to share as much as I could, as clearly as I could, but considering I was locked up and I was under a significant amount of stress and I was separated from my dog and I was aware of so much, there's nothing I could say to her in that short time span that would clearly articulate my situation to her. So whatever I told her, even though I perceived it was a good conversation, she turned around and wrote some bogus fucking report, taking everything that I shared with her out of context, putting not only out of context, but whatever she did quote me on, she was putting things out of chronological order, which totally disrupted everything. And then also they make up stuff that I never even said. And then they label me as, the first one labeled me as a schizo, and that threw me off. That really made me mad. I went as far as writing a letter. I went as far as writing, like, while I was locked up in jail, you know, I used my commissary money to buy a tablet of paper, you know, paper that has the lines on it, and I used my pencil or a pen, and I think I wrote like a 6-7 page letter. And I was intending to send it to her, but I wrote all the words and told her, and I was going to say how ashamed she should be of herself for doing what she did, because I eventually got to read the report, and it was completely fucking bogus. It made me so mad what she wrote, because between what she wrote and all these lies within the police officers' reports, oh my God, I was so angry. But I was doing everything in my power to keep my anger in check. So, you know, I'm in a trap, so I got to do everything in my power not to lash out or freak out. But in my mind, it was devastating. It was heartbreaking, and I was just very upset, right? And then my other, you know, I had two other, or another one. In total, I think I had 5 psychological evaluations, and every single one of them was nothing but nonsense. And please understand, I had every intention of going into great detail and talking about all of this. You know, as part of my story, you know, once we got to that part of the story, I was going to tell you guys all about this. But all of these things are very time consuming, and I'm trying to get this episode wrapped up within, you know, half an hour or so or less. And so I haven't even really talked about, you know, all these things that have happened, but all of this stuff I'm sharing with you is all relevant, and it's how I'm operating right now. I have all of these experiences, and I know exactly what they're trying to do now, okay? What they're trying to do now. And that's how I'm operating, is trying to avoid these traps while observing these things happening, and then communicating out loud and communicating on camera to let everybody know what is happening around me before I ever fall into any of these traps, so you guys potentially can do something about it and not only save my life, but potentially save all of your guys' own lives. Because if they can get me, anybody who's on my team, or anybody that's not performing up to standards, they will turn around and they're going to start going after all of you. Some of you they are already going after, but me being me, a lot of their time and energy is allocated towards my demise and downfall. They're trying to fucking destroy me. And I'm aware of all of it, and I've been enduring all of it, and now you see me here. Like I said, I'm throwing a Hail Mary by making these videos to let you guys know, but at the same time, I'm aware, you know, I'm down to 125 pounds, and it's just a matter of time before something happens. Whether whether it's a medical emergency, I die or something, or the bad guys do something, I don't know, but there's something nearby, around the corner, coming down the pipe, coming down the track, some giant train, whatever metaphor or analogy you want to call it. There's something coming within the next few weeks to a month. I can feel it. So I got 4 minutes left, so I'm gonna I'm gonna get a drink of water, catch my breath, and we're gonna keep on going. So that day, I told you at Walmart, when I went to Cottonwood and Walmart, that was day one of, I was planning on spending the next 1 to 3 days panhandling and try to make as much money as I could in that time span. And then once whatever I got, then I was planning on going back to Sedona and just hanging out in Sedona for a while, right? So after I watched that girl with the guitar, after she left, I watched her for I think I said 20 minutes to half an hour or whatever, and eventually she left, and then that other guy showed up and he laid down. Well, I watched him for a while and he just wasn't budging. He was either acting or he was literally maybe he was just outright loaded up on heroin or something, and he slept. Maybe he just went right to sleep. I don't know. He could have just been pretending. Either way, so I watched that, and then it was approaching middle of the afternoon, and since we're in winter hours and it gets dark by 5:30, there's only a short window left. I only had 2.5 hours of daylight left. And so I was like, well, I gotta try at least for an hour. So I ended up leaving Walmart and I drove to another grocery store, and there was only one spot that it looked like I might be able to stand. And considering I was just new to town, I wasn't familiar with the traffic volume that was coming in and out, so I didn't know if I didn't know what, it might be a good spot, but it might not, and I'm not going to know unless I go try. So I just picked this random spot outside of this grocery store, down near the highway, literally right off, not like a really busy highway, but it was like a 2-lane highway where you got 2 lanes going or a 4-lane, where you got 2 lanes of traffic going one way and 2 lanes of traffic going the other way, and then a median, so a pretty wide road. And then there's just this little side thing that goes into the grocery store parking lot. So right next to a really busy road, and then there's the entrance exit to the thing. So I went and stood right near the busy road by the stop sign, and I had my dog with me. I had Milwaukee with me. Oh, yeah, he's over here. I thought he was behind me. Yeah, he's laying up front. But so that day on Friday, after everything I've described to you over the span of from what happened in Page, Arizona, and then driving down, making it to Sedona, and then making it to Cottonwood. After all of these observations and everything that I've encountered, remember, as I'm doing all this, every single day I am maintaining a connection and a communication with Heavenly Father and my guardian angels and everybody who's on my side that's guarding me and protecting me. Every single day I'm making my prayers, speaking out loud, letting my intentions be known. So with me being as deep in this disgusting, sadistic game as we are, as far as good versus evil, this spiritual battle, and it was pretty obvious that there's a lot of people watching me, not just bad guys, but good guys too, and then there's people in the middle who do not really know much about me, and all they've heard is rumors, and a lot of people, because they've been lied to or deceived, they perceive me as the bad guy or as an evil person, and they perceive me as being someone on the dark side, okay? Whatever their reasons are, that's not the point, but I'm saying that Friday, after leaving Walmart and after observing all of these things, I was aware that there's a lot of shit going on, and I just don't know what people perceive about me right now because nobody's actually communicating with me. So that Friday evening, that dry erase board I have, I wiped the whole thing off. So I cleared the whole thing off and I wrote an entirely new message. I wrote, if you're familiar with the Bible, in the upper left corner in big letters, I just wrote John, John 6:13? Was that right? Yeah? Hold on, one. I have a hard time. I don't have it right here. Oh, 3:16. Yeah, John 3:16. So I wrote John 3:16 in the upper left corner, and then I wrote, where'd it go? God, and in big letters on my dry erase board, I wrote, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. I wrote that entire message on my dry erase board, and then at the bottom I wrote Jesus Christ is King, okay? So that was entirely what I wrote on the board, nothing more, nothing less. I was not asking for money or anything. And I literally went and stood down by that very busy road. You know, it's like, I think it was like 5 p.m. or not 5, it was like 4 p.m. So it's almost like kind of like rush hour traffic. There's tons of cars coming and going on the main road, and then there's a bunch of traffic coming and going from that grocery store. And so I'm just standing on that very corner by the stop sign, and I'm literally just, you know, when people come down from the grocery store to sit at the stop sign and wait for their opportunity to merge onto the road, well, I'd show them my sign and let them read it. And then when there's times when there was no cars coming down, well, I would turn my sign and point it at all the cars coming down the main road, because there was a traffic light a little bit, you know, like a block away from me. So anytime there was a red light, it didn't take long for the traffic to kind of back up to where it's at one point in time there was probably, you know, a dozen cars within range of my sign where they would have the ability to read it. You know, they're close enough to be able to read it, and they're between the dozen cars, however many people were in the cars, that was my sign. So me knowing that I have everybody watching me, you know, in whatever direction, whether on my side or the good side, this was like a declaration of my allegiance, you know, letting people know if they didn't know what side of the fence I was on. And so me standing out there saying Jesus Christ is King, standing out there pointing it, and I stood out there for literally an hour. I set my timer for an hour, and I stood there for an entire hour, just no expectations with making money, but just doing it just to make a message, just to let people know where I stand, and that I'm willing to have the humility of standing out in public for everybody to drive by and make their own selfish judgments or their own judgments or think whatever they want. And then everybody's thinking what they want. And if you believe in the Holy Spirit and believe that God can hear your thoughts, or other entities who work and operate, you know, all these angels, they all have their own assignments and stuff, and they're listening and watching everybody's thoughts, and they're finding out who stands on which side of the fence as people are driving by and I'm holding the sign. Right, so I'm doing that, and so I'm standing here as this bait or this thing that everybody just, for whatever reason, they look over and they read it or they don't, but just catching people's attention. And then the message either resonates with people or it doesn't. And then if you believe God and the angels and all of them are watching all these people, those who actually start thinking about the message and start going into a deeper dialogue within their own mind and start making their own prayer because that message hit them right at that time, and all of a sudden they're reading the Bible or whatever, it leads to a positive thing. That's good, you know, that would help them as far as getting on the right path if they're not, you know. And at the same time, there's people on the bad side. They read that and then they get all angry and pissy, like fuck Jesus, you know. They're saying all these fuck God, like saying all these bad things about it, cursing God, like, and you know, if that's being listened to too, so they're getting identified. Okay, well, this person's not going to pass. Whenever shit goes down, they will be amongst those who are marked for destruction, whatever that means. You know, this is not something I'm going to do. This is, you know, Heavenly Father figuring out who stands where. But I'm standing there all the same, just delivering this message. And where I'm going with this is, in that span that I was standing there, I had 2 people stop and give me money. I had one person give me $5 and another person give me $10. And that was money I needed at that time. I needed that cash. But, you know, that's all I made in an hour. Not a big deal. I wasn't asking for money. But the people that did give me the money, you know, the board that I was holding, the message obviously resonated with them to where they were willing to roll down their window and hand me a 5, and the other person handed me a 10. And I had other people giving me thumbs ups as they were driving by. Cool, you know, the thumbs up's cool. They see the message, it resonates with them, but they might not have cash on them right now, so it's okay. All the same, you know, I made $15, and as soon as when I was done, after my hour lapsed, it was right around sunset. It was going to be getting dark soon, so I went and got in the van, fired it up, went into the grocery, you know, drove over to the grocery store, went inside, and I think I bought some meat and cheese or something. You know, I have different food needs, and when I run out of stuff, what I'm going to need to eat, like I go directly buy that thing first. And then if I have other food where I still have a little bit left, well, I'll wait and see if I can make more money later, and I'll buy that when I run out of that. But I just buy my immediate needs as far as being able to have a full sandwich, or, you know, bananas and milk and cereal, you know, stuff, just these staple little, even though they're not enough calories, but they're enough to at least take the edge of hunger off. So I turned around and spent that entire $15 on food that I needed, right? I needed that night, or else I would not have been able to eat a full meal that night. I would have just been eating nothing good, just like random little snacks to just take the edge off, but there's no protein, no fat, no good carbohydrates. It's just been other stuff. But I got that $15 and it really helped, okay? So that was, that kind of made me feel good, getting the 15, cool. All right. So after I got my food, I ended up driving back to the Walmart, and I don't believe, I was planning on sleeping in the Walmart parking lot that night, considering the Walmart in Page allowed people to sleep in their parking lot. There weren't any signs in Page that said no overnight parking. And so I went to the Walmart in Cottonwood, Cottonwood Walmart, and found a place to park there. And that's where I slept for the night. Nothing eventful happened that night. And then the next morning, I was up before the sun. It was still dark. It wasn't going to, my plan was, I was literally planning on getting up, up. I planned on waking up like half hour, 45 minutes before the sun even came up. That way I could I get up, get dressed, allow Malaki to go pee real quick on the nearby bush, then I throw him in, put him back in the van, and then I go run inside Walmart real quick so I can go to the bathroom, and then I run back to the van, and then I'm going to drive off and go back to that city park that I went to, and I'm going to go take Malaki on like a 3 to 4 mile bike ride, and then I'm going to drive back to Walmart, and then I'm going to get started on my panhandling. I'm going to get on, like early bird catches the worm, right? That was my philosophy, but apparently I wasn't early enough. Because, when I'm talking about bad guys always watching me, so pretend you're a bad guy and you know what my intentions are. You know that you got away with not allowing me to successfully panhandle at Walmart the day before, and you know my intention is to try and panhandle again at Walmart the next day, and you know I'm an early riser, and you know I will get out there early, so you know my patterns and behaviors, right? So you want to set an actor. You would have somebody that's just acting, or somebody that you find off the street and you pay them or give them an assignment or to tell them to stand there to block me. They might not know what they're doing, but they're telling them to go there or whatever, but they go to that spot. So if you're a bad guy and you know your objective is to block me, so I can't make money, so therefore I can't buy my food, so I can't eat, therefore you're trying to starve me, okay? So what I'm saying is, so that night I slept at Walmart. I woke up super early. I went and took care of all, my needs and Malaki's needs. I got him his exercise, and then I went straight back to Walmart. But right that morning at sunrise, as I was leaving Walmart to go to the city park to go run Malaki, as I was leaving, right at that spot where that girl that was playing the guitar and that guy that was laying there, right at that very spot, there was nobody standing there. There was nobody there. But somebody had put a panhandling sign there and a little blue cooler, like a little blue cooler to keep food or drink cold, and they had left it in that exact spot as if somebody was reserving it. Wherever they were doing something else, but they had intentions of panhandling in that spot in the near future. And they put their stuff there to reserve the spot. So I noticed that. I'm like, oh great, they're because I'm aware of all this stuff going on, so I don't. When I see that, I don't associate that as a coincidence. That is something intentional. That's something that the bad guys are doing, letting me know that it's a new day and they're already prepared. So that was already communicated with me. But at the same time, it might not be. I'm not going to try and get ahead of myself at the same time. It might just be somebody that has grown up in the area. They know it's a good spot in the morning, and so they've put in their time to, get their spot there, get in there early and take advantage of it. Could have been. So I'm not jumping to conclusions at the beginning, right from the get-go, but I'm aware of both scenarios. It could just be a normal person, just a normal person panhandling because they know it's a good spot, but at the same time it could just be a lie and it's all orchestrated, okay? And so I ended up leaving, I go take Malaki for his run, and then I eventually drive back, and when I drive back to Walmart, there's this, it's a woman probably in her late 20s, and it's just a single woman, and she's got like a white beanie on and a big overcoat, kind of like a winter coat to look like she's cold. And she's holding a sign that says, family in need. I can't remember everything, but it said something like single mom. I think it said single mother, family in need, anything helps, God bless, or something like that, okay? If that's true, okay, then she's got to do what she's got to do, right? So I ended up, I didn't know how long she was going to be there, and I had already been gone for, about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I wasn't rushing back to Walmart, because if there is I already knew somebody's going to be there. So maybe just if they showed up, maybe they'll put in their time and they'll leave. Maybe they'll just do a couple hours and then they'll leave. Okay. So I go there, and then I go there and I see her, and then I think I sat there for like half an hour, just being patient, just letting her do her thing, sitting in the distance, and she wouldn't leave. And then I was starting to get impatient, and I was like, well, I don't want to just sit here waiting if she's going to be here for a while, because it didn't look like she was going to leave. As it currently stood, she had like two sacks of groceries that had apparently been given to her by people. So it looked like she was already doing pretty good. And then as I was sitting there, there was a number of people that stopped and gave her money. So, well, that'd be cool if I could get the opportunity to do that. It looks like it's pretty good. A lot of generous people in the area, maybe. But I was like, okay, well, I don't want to just lurk on her and be a weirdo. So I ended up leaving, and I went and tried to find a different spot, okay? I went back to the same place that I had previously done it, the evening before, when I stood out there with my the sign with the Bible scripture, John 3:16. And then, I went back to that grocery store area, but I went to a different spot, like a different entrance exit for traffic, and I stood there. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to try standing here for an hour. And I had my dog with me, and we stood there on the corner for an hour. And I had a few people give me a little bit of money. But remember the patterns that I've talked about where things have been happening right at the end? Okay, well, this is one of those instances where the bad guys made another attempt at getting me at the very end. So I had been standing there. I don't know if I made it the full hour. I might have stopped at about 45 minutes. I can't remember exactly. But right as I was literally at the very end, as I took down my sign, and Malaki and I were walking back to the van. I parked probably maybe 100 paces away. And as I'm right at getting into my van, some guy who was parked probably about 4 spaces down, he comes out from behind his van, and he approaches me, and he's carrying a sack of there's a fast food restaurant right next door, right near where I was parked. And it was like a little sack from that restaurant, and then he had a little 18-ounce orange juice, orange juice drink. He had that, and so he literally just walked up to me, handed me the food and the orange juice, and then he had a $20 bill. So he handed me a 20 and the food and the drink, and then I don't believe he asked me really anything, but I can't remember him saying anything. But he handed it all to me, and then he just walked away. Okay, so I'm following this pattern, and I know, okay, so there's people watching me, and they're going to wonder if I'll eat the food, because they saw me eat that other lady's food back in Page where I ate that McMuffin, and they're wondering, it's been a week and a half or whatever, and they're wondering, is Brandon hungry enough? Is he desperate enough? Will he make that mistake? Will he eat this food? Well, I didn't. After that guy, after our encounter ended and I got in my van and then I drove off, I just went to I just left. The first thing I did is went and threw that food away. So if anybody was watching or monitoring or observing me, well, they watched me throw it in the trash. So that's just me making a statement to any bad guys watching. If that was their attempt, maybe it wasn't poisoned or anything, maybe not that time, or maybe it was, but they were seeing what I was going to do with it. So they saw me throw it away. Well, that probably made them angry. If they were trying something and I didn't take the bait because I'm learning, right, following these patterns, well, it didn't work. Okay. So fast forward, it's at some point I can't remember what I did right after that. After panhandling, I might have I can't remember if I went back to the park and I think I went back to Walmart, because I was curious, because I wasn't I had stood at that one spot for like 45 minutes, and I think that guy he might have been the only guy that gave me money. So I stood there for 45 minutes, and I packed it up because I wasn't getting any money. And then that guy magically showed up right at the end and gave me $20, and all of a sudden my spirits were lifted, right? But I had learned, I learned enough that spot wasn't a good spot, and so my knowledge of that woman who was at Walmart, and the fact that it looked like she was doing pretty well, my mind is like, well, let's go back. It's only a mile and a half down the road, so I'll just drive back, swing by, and just see if she's there or not. And then, considering, she was there, she had her sign and everything there before the sun was even up, like even before sunrise. That's when I was leaving Walmart, and that's when that sign was there. So she was already on assignment before the sun was even close to being up. So from my impression, you know, by the time I got done panhandling at this other grocery store, it had already been like 4 hours. Okay, so I'm like, how long can this person stand out there? Okay, if she's had 4 hours, you'd think maybe she's about ready to go pack it up. Maybe she has to use the bathroom. You know, maybe she has to go pee, or maybe she feels like she's earned enough, made enough money, or something. Maybe she'll just, at some point, she'll pack it up. I thought, you know, maybe at some point she'll just pack it up, and then I'll just jump on that opportunity. I got my sign ready. You know, I've changed my sign. I'm not going with the John 3:16. I'm doing a new sign, just like what I did in Page. So I'm going to go try that. And I was like, okay, she's been here for 4 hours. She's probably going to clear out soon. So I'm just going to sit nearby where I can see her in a distance. And as soon as she packs up, I'm just going to jump on that spot. Well, the thing is, if this is all a setup and it's a lie, and she is literally standing there on my account because somebody has told her to stand there, because they're literally, it's a strategy, like playing chess. She's blocking my ability to do what I'm trying to accomplish. So she's just standing there, and the entire time she's standing there, there's just car after car who's stopping. Like there's one after the next, just stopping and giving her food or drinks or money. Or there's people who are not just driving by and giving her stuff, there's people who are pulling over and getting out of their car and walking up to her and handing her stuff. So I'm watching all this, and I know it's all fake. So also at the same time, if you're thinking strategy, right? If you're a bad guy and you're thinking strategy, and your intentions are to, because you know I'm watching it happen, and you have eyes on me, and your objective is to try and make me frustrated, angry, upset. You're just trying to mess with my emotions really bad and trying to trigger me into having a psychological breakdown, or using this person who I don't know, where I watch all this happen and she won't leave, where they're trying to make my frustration escalate and boil over, where they want me to go out there and accuse her and ask her to leave or whatever, try to, you know, assert my dominance. And then all of a sudden there's people watching, and then there's people who watch me kick her out of there, and she goes off like sulking or something, and she could literally make stuff up saying that I said a whole bunch of mean stuff, and then the next thing I know I have people attacking me or whatever, getting in and arguing with me, and then people on the outside are watching this argument and they think it's a big public disturbance, and then you got the police coming. Could turn into something crazy, right? So I'm just sitting there watching all this. I'm just thinking strategically, if you're a bad guy and your objective is to try and trigger me and send me down that path, what better way than to have an actress or somebody stand there with the sign for X number of hours, and when you know I'm there and when you know I'm watching, you have other people who are also part of it, who also know everything that's going on, and all of them are coming by. They all have cash in their pocket, and they all hand this person cash. Just hand her cash, 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 because they know I'm watching and they're trying to make me mad, right? They're trying to make me mad, and then maybe at some point when I go out there and do it, they're going to reverse it and they're going to shut it all off to where nobody gives me any money. Or if I do make money, it's going to be pennies compared to what she made, right? So there's this thing going on where it's all psychological war. It's partially psychological warfare, but it's what they're doing and what they're trying to accomplish, but I'm wise enough to see it. I'm not saying that's exactly what's going on, but it's a possibility. And so I'm aware of all this stuff as it's happening, and I'm watching this lady just get all kinds of money, get loaded up. She has like 4 sacks of food standing in front of her. And at some point, it was around 12 p.m., noon. She had been standing out there for it was going on 5 hours, and she had not went anywhere. She'd been standing there the entire time. Crazy shit. So I ended up like, okay, well, if this is all orchestrated, well, she's probably going to stand there for a very long time, and then as soon as she's too tired to stand there anymore, or she has to go to the bathroom, they'll probably have somebody else just swap in, and as soon as somebody come talk to her, she packs up, walks away, and there's already somebody there. So they know if I'm willing to sit there for 2 or 3 more hours just waiting for that opportunity, they'll just have somebody just swap in, and so I will have pretty much wasted 2 or 3 hours of my time, right? So I knew better, so I was like, okay, I can see what's going on, and I decided to leave. So I left, but considering I only made $20, I still needed to make more, because my goal was to spend 1 to 3 days panhandling as much as possible so I can prepare for my next week to 2 weeks. That way I have my money I have enough to pay for my expenses for the next week or two before I have to put myself at risk again panhandling. I'm trying to avoid panhandling every single day because that's just taking that risk every single day. So if I can make a good amount of money in a day or two, cool, but whatever it is, whatever. But I ended up leaving the Walmart and I drove to Safeway. I told you there was multiple grocery stores in Cottonwood. Well, I had been trying at this, I tried those first 2 times at this grocery store. When I went to a different one, I went to Safeway grocery store. And I went and stood out at a different entrance exit by a stop sign outside their property. And I stood there for an hour. I think in total I made like another $7. It wasn't much. I stood out there for another hour, only made like $7, and then I called it. I just set a limit for myself, and whatever I can make, good. At this current stage, I'm just watching everything happening as it's happening, and I'm not willing to overexert myself doing things if it's just going to be a waste of time. If I'm literally have people stalking me and everything around me is being manipulated, well, none of it is natural, which means if it's not natural and all these people around me are behaving unnaturally, well, I'm literally just wasting my time and energy, which is a form of energy harvesting by these bad guys. If they know I'm not going to make any money, they'll just sit there and laugh and wonder how long I'm willing to sit there. Will he sit there 3 hours knowing he'll only make $5? Or not knowing he's only going to make $5? Or not knowing he's only going to make $3? No, I'm not. I'm willing just to set a limit for myself and just observe and see assess what the situation is, and then move on if it's not looking good. I'm smart enough to know, and that's what they've been doing. I forgot to hit the timer on that, so I need to check this real quick. I'm good for 13 minutes. So moving forward, like I went and panhandled at the Safeway for an hour, right? So I made $7 or so. As far as the remainder of the day after that bit of panhandling, I was like, I'm calling it good. I'm not going to exert any more of my time or energy or frustration or stress or anything on this. I will try again tomorrow. So I ended up driving all the way back to that original city park where I had taken Milwaukee for a bike ride that morning. That area it was like a pretty big parking area. There's a recreation area. There's a public library. There's an actual park with trees and picnic benches and stuff. So it's an all right area to hang out. So I went back there, and that's pretty much where I stayed for the remainder of the daylight hours. I stayed there until around sunset, and then at some point I ended up driving all the way back to Walmart. And of course, right at sunset, as it's getting dark, there's nobody standing there panhandling, so who knows when that lady decided to leave. But I ended up driving to a spot and parked it there for the night, and that's where I stayed for the night. And the only really strange thing that really happened that night, as I was laying in my bed, at some point while I was laying in my bed, it was starting to get late, close to bedtime, I'm psychologically reviewing all of these things that have been happening around me, and I'm just trying to make sense of it, and then maybe just kind of prepare for what might be ahead of me tomorrow or the next day, just looking at all these patterns and stuff. And so at some point during that night, I started reviewing my observations of this woman standing out there who's holding this sign saying that she's like a single mom with and it's a family in need and stuff, and watching her make all of this money. And so I start looking at different scenarios as far as who this individual was, and wondering if she's literally just an actress who's dressed up pretending and it's all just a lie, and it's her friends giving her money to make the illusion. It could have been just an illusion to try to mess with me, right? That's one scenario, but there's a much more disturbing and fucked up scenario that also started flooding through my mind, and I'm wondering if that may have happened, and I don't know, and I have no proof to say if it did or it didn't. So this really disturbing and sadistic scenario that popped up in my mind is, so there's the bad guys, right, and they're the ones following me, and they know my patterns, and they know everything I'm doing, right? And so because I'm moving around all the time, it might be difficult for them to have people, because they always, if I see somebody in one town, they can't use the same person in another town. Otherwise, I'm gonna recognize them. So when I'm going around places, to all these different towns and different counties and states or whatever, and they're following me, and they're looking for their opportunities to try and get me, well, they might For example, so say this woman was out there and she's like homeless, or maybe she's somebody that they just found on the street that they perceive is somebody who is poor. They might have found her panhandling somewhere else, and they've said, hey, we will give you $500 or $1,000 if you go stand over at this Walmart for 5 or 6 hours straight. You don't need to know why, but we will give you $1,000 if you go stand there and panhandle. And while you're standing there panhandling, you can, whatever money you make, good for you. You'll probably do really well. And whatever you make, you can keep the $1,500, whatever we're offering you, and you can keep the money that we're giving you. And you can keep the money that you're earning from standing out there. Whether it's somebody that was panhandling that they found, or somebody that they just randomly found that lives in the area, somebody who's in like a tight situation, or they're in a tight spot in life, and these people just, for whatever reason they found this person and look at them as a useful idiot, or somebody who's vulnerable to do something without asking questions, or maybe there's somebody who's already caught up in the sex trafficking racket, and they just pulled this person out of wherever they've been and told her to stand there and just take as much money as she can get. That could have been, but where I'm going with this is, who's to say, whoever this person was, just say that they were assigned to stand there by some other people in the background. Whether the person knows or she doesn't know the reasons why, it doesn't really matter. But what I'm saying is, say they give her money, and then all the money she makes, okay, she puts in the time, say it was 6 or 7 hours that she stood there, and she made another $500 or $600 just from panhandling. Who's to say, I'm gone, I'm out doing my own thing. These people who set it up and they know about her, who's to say, as she, they tell her that she's good to go have a nice day, good job, thank you. They tell her all this stuff, make her feel good about herself. Who's to say, she goes and wanders off wherever she goes, whether she has her own place to live or she's homeless, she's living out in the desert or something, or living out of her car. Who's to say wherever she goes that evening, once it gets dark, who's to say those very same people don't follow her, or have not already followed her, just waiting for it to get dark, and then they go and murder her or rape her and then murder her, and then they take back the money that they paid her to stand there, and then they take the money that she earned while standing out there panhandling, and then they take the food and the snacks and all of that, and then they either just go bury her in a shallow grave, or they just leave her vehicle and the dead body there for somebody to find. That's pretty fucked up, right? To make it even more fucked up, if this is a real thing and that happened to that woman, I never saw that woman again after that. I stayed in Cottonwood for like another 3 days. I never saw her again after that. Especially after I thought these things, after this went through my brain, why am I thinking about this? Why is this scenario going through my brain? And it's almost like God was telling me what may have happened that night. I don't know. But the fact that I haven't seen her, who knows? But what makes it even more messed up, if there's people out there doing this to poor innocent people or unsuspecting people or whatever, if they're not innocent but they're just somebody that they found that was gullible enough to do this stuff, who's to say that is a racket in itself with a perpetual source of income, where they can they just tell somebody, go stand there, we'll pay you whatever money you make, you can keep it, and then go have a nice day, and then they end up going and killing the person and then taking that money, and then who's to say the next day they don't go find another person, and the next day they don't find another person, and after a period of time, say there's a homeless population in a town, or there's a lot of people in poverty, or there's a specific ethnic group like Hispanics or blacks or Native Americans or whatever, any race, say there's this dark, the bad side, they're trying to infiltrate and take over a place, and they're trying to just have this population be a specific type of, as far as people's mentality and how they live their life, they want people to fit inside a certain mold. 6 minutes. They want people to fit inside a certain mold, and if they're unwilling to live inside that mold, then those people eventually get outcasted from society, where they pretty much lose their job and their ability to pay their bills, so eventually they become homeless. And anybody who's homeless, anybody who, rather than moving on to another town or trying to get, rather than either moving on to another town or getting in line and getting a job and doing things as they're being told by the society, this artificial construct, anybody who remains outside that for a long enough period of time, and you see yourself as homeless, and you're out there panhandling trying to survive, and you're you're speaking about the corruption. Well, who's to say there aren't people out there that take care of the homeless population after a period of time where they do these all these things that I've been describing. They're doing these things to the homeless, and that's why there are some places that you go, you don't see homeless or you don't see panhandlers. Where if you do see a panhandler, you might see him for a couple days, and then after a while they just disappear, and then you don't think twice about it. Right? So that's pretty sadistic and messed up to think about, but that's might be what I'm dealing with. It certainly appears that way after these past couple of weeks, but this is just me observing and watching for patterns, okay? I'm keep talking a little bit longer than I expect, but I'm getting closer and closer to the end. And I hope the information I'm sharing with you is keeping you psychologically, mentally engaged enough where you're not getting bored, and you're not like looking at your clock wondering like, geez, Brandon, how much longer are you going to talk? Well, again, if I'm boring you, you can always turn off the video, but I'm hoping the information I'm presenting is keeping you interested, where you just want me to keep talking like, holy cow, Brandon, this is golden. This is golden information, things I've never heard about or ever considered, and now I'm aware of all this stuff that I've never been aware of. That's what I'm hoping, is as I'm speaking, you're like, keep going, Brandon, you're fucking thrown out, just spitting fire. That's what I hope your perception is. I'm gonna pause real quick because the timer is almost out and I need to check the battery. I forgot to push the button on this one. All right, moving forward. I told you I slept at Walmart that second night, and then I had that feeling that something bad might have happened to that woman. I have no way of knowing, but I just had this feeling something bad might have happened to that woman. And then all those sadistic thoughts about these people out there that might be doing this type of stuff, where they're hiring people to go do certain tasks, and then as soon as they do the task, they wait for an opportunity to murder them or make them disappear, just because they are eliminating all witnesses. They don't want witnesses, and if somebody's dumb enough or naive enough or a useful idiot, that gets pulled into these traps, once they do the deed, these people will literally just make them disappear, only because they're a witness, and these people perceive that individual as a nobody, where there won't be anybody else who will really care enough to ask questions or even wonder where the person went, which is pretty messed up, right? So I thought about all of that second night when I was trying to go to sleep in the Walmart parking lots. So moving forward, nothing else weird happened that night. Nobody messed with me that night. The following morning, I did the exact same early morning routine. I was up early, before the sun, went into Walmart to go to the bathroom, and then I drove to the city park to get Malaki his bike ride run, right? And then I was back at Walmart early, first thing, as soon as I could possibly get Malaki his exercise, and as soon as I could get back to Walmart, I wanted to get started just so I could get that spot. If it meant standing there for 2 hours until it started getting busy, so be it. I was willing to do it. And so I had changed my sign again. I wiped it all down, and I was going to try a different strategy that day. Rather than going, on that Friday night, I went with John 3:16. It was a Bible verse. And then the next day I did the veteran and service dog, broke, no family, need anything helps, God bless, a sign similar to that. And then this third day, at least that morning, I went with this sign that said, looking for a good story, want to trade, with a question mark. And then I wrote, I need money for food and water, and in exchange, I will give you the link to my YouTube channel and my 900-page story. That's every word for word. That's essentially what I wrote in big letters, so you could easily read it across the board, right? So when I got to Walmart, I had it all ready to go, and when I got there, there was nobody panhandling. There was nobody there, so I just get into the parking lot as fast as I can, park the vehicle, get Malaki on the leash, and him and we walk out there with my board, and we get the spot, and I'm like, yes, got it. So I'm gonna stand here with this sign. I have no idea what's gonna come out of it. This is me. I'm offering, rather than just trying to take from people, I'm offering something in exchange. So maybe anybody who reads the sign, they're like, whoa, this guy standing here sounds like it's a good story, and he'll give me this story for $1. You know, essentially 900-page story. You got $1. $1 will help me. Give me $1. I'll give you the link to my 900-page story and everything on my channel. Good trade, yeah. I mean, if you know who I am and you know what's on the channel, I feel like $1 would be a good trade. So, but at the same time, maybe somebody give me a 5 or a 10 or something. But initially, aside from the money, I was also opening this door where anybody that does see that and they do want to get the link to my channel and do want to ask questions, well, maybe I might make some real friends. Maybe I might help people who don't know anything about me find the truth. I might wake people up in the process of doing this, so that's where I'm going with. So I went and stood out there, right? So I stood out there. I'm really excited that I made it. It's not that busy yet because it's still early in the morning. And I'm standing there for about half an hour, and I had two people. I had one woman give me like $3, but she didn't even really read the sign. She was just giving me money because, you know, she just assumed I was panhandling and asking for money. So she just drove up, gave me money. I was like, hey, you want a link to this? And then she's like, kind of stopped her. I was like, do you want a link to my story? And then she kind of read the story. She's like, oh, yeah. So on the back of my sign, hold on, I'll show you. On the back of my board, you know, on the back of my dry erase board, I have this written, right? So if you can see that. So I have this written on the back. So if somebody gives me money, I was like, you got your phone on you, you got your camera, right? So I was like, get your phone out, take a picture of that, and then if you want to read the story, you know, you got a picture of it, you can find it. So the lady read the sign. She says, oh, yeah, I'll read it or something. And so she gets her phone out, and I spin it around, show it to her. And she drives off. You know, I've never seen her again, never heard from her again, but at least somebody took that picture, and she gave me like $3. And then another person, like, you know, in the span of this half an hour, there's another little old lady that drove by, and she gave me a couple dollars. She didn't even read the sign. She didn't even care about any of it. She didn't even have her vehicle stopped long enough for me to even ask her if she wanted the link to it. At least I don't remember. I can't. It was a very fast interaction. She pretty much just handed me a couple dollars and kept driving. And then, you know, I think it was like another 10 or 15 minutes went by. And considering it had been a half an hour, you know, that's comparing to that woman before, there's nothing, you know, as far as she was making way more. And it might just be my sign, you know, maybe people aren't interested in the story. And all of a sudden, my intuition, this energy was telling me, okay, maybe just run back to the van real quick, wipe it down, and then just go back to your original sign that I did, you know, like what I was using in Page, and then the day before, just go back to your original sign. No big deal. You know, but that started going through my mind. And because as I was watching people, you know, as I was standing there, other than those two people who gave me a few bucks, I'm just watching people, just watching people's eye contact and whether or not they seem interested or if they don't. And the majority of people did not, even if they read the sign, they just kept driving and didn't act interested. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this isn't the best way to go about doing it. So I was like, okay, maybe just run to the van. Just be as fast as you can, like 5 minutes at most to get it wiped down and changed out. You know, so that's what I did. I pretty much walked quickly to the van with Milwaukee by my side. And then I jump inside and wipe it all down. And by the time I was done, it was like a span of 5, 6, 7 minutes that it took me to do that. And the span that I did that, and then when I got out of the van and I started walking back, literally somebody had come out of nowhere and they were just sitting cross-legged. He's just sitting on the ground like this with his head down with a little tiny cardboard sign. He's just sitting like this, right where I was. In a span of just a few minutes, somebody was waiting just to jump in. And to make this weirder, okay, so I just turn around. I'm like, I'm not gonna go even talk to this guy. I'm not even gonna talk to him. Oh yeah, wait, let's back up. So you know, like I told you, I wanted to do it as fast as possible. So I told you when I walked back to my van and when I jumped into my van and was working on fixing the sign, some guy came and all of a sudden there's somebody knocking on the hood of my van. Like, you know, I'm sitting where I am right now, and then the windshield's behind the camera, but there's a guy at the hood of my van looking through the windshield, knocking on it, and he's holding up like a foot-long sandwich, like this foot-long sandwich that supposedly looked like it had just come from like he looked like he had just bought it from Walmart, right? So this guy's like, "You want a sandwich?" So obviously I got to climb forward and talk to him. So I talked to him for a moment. I accepted the sandwich, but yeah, I wasn't gonna eat it. But I accepted the sandwich, and then in the time, by the time I interacted with him, got back and filled up, finished writing out my new thing on the sign, and then by the time I got out of the van and started walking over, this other guy had went and parked himself in my exact spot. Therefore, I'm blocked. Therefore, there's no way for me to make money again. Okay. Very frustrating. So, what did I do? Well, I ended up, I know, okay, so this is on purpose. And clearly, because he just got here, he's probably going to be sitting there for a while. So, rather than just sitting there fuming or getting angry and letting my emotions just boil over, I kept my attitude in check. I understood what was going on because I'm following these patterns. This guy gave me a sandwich. So what I did is like, okay, if they're both in on it and this guy's giving me a sandwich just to mock me, or maybe this sandwich is poisoned and that guy's part of it too, I got out of the van and I walked over and gave that sandwich to that guy. And I told that guy that, I told him that I had allergies, and he took the sandwich. So I have no way of knowing what was in it, but I waited long enough for that other guy to disappear, and then I went and gave it to that guy. Fast forward, I ended up going, because I had to leave, I wasn't going to sit there and wait on him, so I left, and then I went to the Safeway again. I went to Safeway, and I went back to that spot that I had gone before, and I didn't really do well. I made a little bit of money, and somewhere near like the 2/3, closer to the end, but not the very end. This little SUV, like a little I don't even know, just this tiny little car. Not a car, but like not a full-born SUV. I'm trying to think of whatever. But this car pulls into the parking lot, and there's a really old man and his wife that are driving, and they weren't going into the parking lot to go to the grocery store, but they pulled in, and then they parked right like in the nearest parking spot to where I was standing. And this really old man gets out and he walks around, and he comes and starts talking to me. I mean, he's probably in his late 80s or 90s, or he might have been in his, I don't know, he might have been in his later 70s or in his 80s. I don't really know. I can't remember. But this guy, he was a veteran. What did he say? He was a veteran, and then he told me that he saw me the day before. I was standing in the same spot, and he saw me the day before, but for some reason they weren't able to stop. He didn't have any cash on him. But I can't remember if he said it or his wife, but his wife said that he had been thinking about me all night, like thinking about seeing me out there. Waiting on that truck. It's noisy. But they said that the guy, they had seen me the previous day out there, and I had been on his mind that night for whatever reason. And that next day, they drove back out there and found me, and because he wanted to talk to me. I don't really know what that meant, but they said that his wife said he was thinking about me all night, and that they wanted to stop on by and see what they could do to help me. And so she stayed in the vehicle, but I could talk to her from she was sitting in the driver's seat, and I could talk to her, and we could hear each other that was how close we were. But her husband got out and walked around, and we just talked face to face. And so he told me he was a veteran, and then he asked me a little bit about me, but he didn't really ask too much details. But I told him, I mentioned a little bit about Malaki being, he asked Malaki if Malaki's a service dog, or I believe at some point I mentioned Malaki being drugged a few different times, and that these bad people had been trying to kill my dog. And he's like, no shit. I'm like, yeah, there's people trying to take me down. Oh yeah, that's what I remember. At some point, because the previous day when he had seen my sign, I had veteran POW and then service dog written. But the next day I took off the POW and just put PTSD. They're both true. It's just a matter of how much space I have and how much it doesn't really matter to me. I'm just trying to get anybody to help me, man. It doesn't matter to me. But he said, he's like, yesterday I saw that you had POW written on there. And I was like, yes. Yes, sir. And he's like, what's up with that? You know, and I told him, like, obviously I'm not going to go into great detail, but I told him about being held for 12 months in Humboldt County in northwest Colorado on account of me going after some very corrupt people. And then I got taken as their prisoner, and he was like, no shit. Like, he didn't really know what to think about it, but it might have been something he just wasn't really anticipating, or maybe he knew who I was and something he thought I was faking it or something. But something that whatever I was telling him is he was just kind of making it like the other guy. He was kind of scratching his head a little bit, and he wasn't accusing me of anything, but he was just kind of asking a little bit of questions. And where I'm going with this is at some point he ended up giving me $10, and then I thanked him and shook his hand, and then he walked all the way back and was getting in his car. And just kind of, he didn't really act super friendly. It was kind of like he was just kind of assessing me, you know, because if he's a veteran, he's probably pretty intelligent. If he's been in the service for a long time, he's not an idiot, so he can probably smell somebody who's lying as opposed to somebody who's honest, but he's just not sticking around long enough to really know what I'm talking about. I don't know what he thought when he decided to leave, but he did give me $10. And as he was getting back into the car, all of a sudden this energy, my intuition was coming into my head, telling me, you need to turn around and tell them about your YouTube channel, because they might not know about it. They might just have been told lies about me, and they have a misperception about who I am. So I walked over to his wife at the driver's seat, and I told her about my YouTube channel and told her that I wrote a 900-page story and that it's available on YouTube to watch freely. And I asked her if she would be interested. You want a link to my channel if you're interested to know who I am and what I'm about and kind of check out my background? She said yes. I told her she could get out her phone and take a picture of it, in which she did take out her phone. And then I held this up for her to take. She took a picture. And she, as far as I know, she said that they would check it out. Beyond that, I haven't heard from them. And I know, even if they did follow up, and even if they did go to that first episode and they start watching that story beginning to end, that's like 40 hours worth of time commitment. So if they did start the story, I would not expect to hear from them anytime soon, because if they start the story, it's going to take them a period of time to finish, and then they got to get their thoughts together and figure out what they're dealing with. So, but if they did have a misperception about me, I at least directed them towards my YouTube channel, thus giving them the opportunity to find the truth if they so care to invest their own time. That way, if this person had originally approached me with a bad perspective about me for whatever reason, my goal is where if they put in the time, they have the link to my channel, if they put in the time, maybe by the end of the story, their perspective will be entirely shifted and view me as somebody that's a good person, and they understand exactly what I'm talking about as far as these bad, sick individuals who are out there trying to set me up to commit a crime or whatever and have me disappear or locked up or try to starve me to death or whatever. They're just trying, that's what their goal is. So I'm trying to wake people up to what's going on, right? That's a lot. So after that person, after they gave me $10, I ended up, I had my hour-long timer, and that's when I just packed it up and left. My timer went up. I wasn't really making anything, and so I ended up leaving Safeway, but I wasn't quite discouraged yet, in which I decided to go back to Walmart. Consider it had been like 1.5 hours to 2 hours since I had left, and that guy had been there for 1.5 hours to 2 hours. I was thinking maybe, if I get there, he's either going to be gone, or he might have to go to the bathroom, or he's made what he needed for the day, and then maybe he'll leave, at some point while I'm there, and then I can get back in that spot. So I make it back, and that guy's still just sitting there. He's just sitting on his butt like this with his little sign, and he's like not moving. And so I drive past him, go find a spot to sit, or go find a spot to park where I can kind of see him, but we can kind of see each other, but I'm far enough away. And I did give him that sandwich, so I don't know, whatever he did with it, I don't know. But he's still there. When I got there, he was still there, right? Not long after, it had been like maybe 20, 30 minutes. Not long after, this guy in a truck this guy in this truck pulls into the Walmart parking lot, and he parks, rather than going all the way into the Walmart parking lot, he goes down this little side parking lot, and he just parks really close to where he just kind of like parks across, like he took up like 4 parking spot spaces because he didn't park head in, he just parked lengthways across all the spots. And this old guy jumps out, and he walks over to this guy that's sitting on his cross leg. He walks over to the guy who's panhandling, and I'm watching this, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe he's just gonna give him a little bit of money, you know, like out of generosity, whatever. But the guy, he goes over and they start talking, right? And as they're talking, at some point I see the guy hand the guy who's panhandling, I see the guy who had just approached him, that guy handed the panhandler something. I couldn't see what. And then at some point, that panhandler stood up, and then he walks off. He just walks off, right? And he's gone. He just takes off, and he's gone. And then that guy, he walks back to his truck, and he goes and grabs a chair, like a wooden chair with the, you know, like a chair you sit in with the backrest and everything. He walks over to his chair, he gets a chair, or he walks over to his truck, grabs his chair, and he walks back and puts his chair down right where I was wanting to go. And I'm like, no fucking way. All these guys are in it together. Everybody I've seen, they're all in it together in some way, and they're literally communicating with each other, and they're doing shifts. So this guy, he puts his chair, and not only did he go get his chair, he walked back to his truck, and he had like a booth. He set up like this, he made like this cardboard, I don't know cardboard, but he had assembled like this booth, and he had put on all kinds of stickers and pictures and stuff on it. You know, something like taking donations for dogs and pets, like, you know, this, and he sets up this booth where he's sitting at this chair, where he's surrounded by all this, you know, these dazzling things to look at as far as donations for animals. And he just, all right, so this guy, he starts, you know, he has his chair and he sets up this booth, and all these little stickers and decals or whatever he put on is all about supposedly making donations for animals and, you know, poor animals and stuff. Oops. I'll fix that. It's my microphone. It fell over. You know, so he's supposedly trying to take donations for our 4-legged friends between cats and dogs. Okay, so he sets up this booth. Okay, so once he gets it all set up, he just casually walks back to his truck, like his pickup truck, and then he just takes off and drives like down the you know, I told you he went down like this little side parking lot it was like a little side parking lot off the main parking lot of Walmart. He went down this little side parking lot, and he drove all the way around the building, and then he came exactly, and he parked pretty much right in front of me, pretty close to right where, you know, kind of where he's standing in this median area where his little booth is, and he's parked in the closest parking spot to that. So he drives all the way around. So there's nobody there right now. He just set up his booth to claim the territory, like it's this territorial competition type thing, you know, because it's all being orchestrated. But that, you know, maybe that guy did need to go to the bathroom, and he, you know, the guy that he had approached and handed something to, and he walked off, you know, whatever. It was that guy's they're on rotation, and it was that guy's turn to leave, and they wanted to have this other guy come in with his special booth because they know I'm there waiting for my opportunity. Okay, well, what will piss Brandon off more? Let's not just have a panhandler there. Let's get somebody with a fucking chair, and then a big booth that says taking donations for dogs, right? And then this guy, he goes and moves his truck and parks there, and then you would think that he would just go sit down and start panhandling, right? You know, get to it, man. It's like you're taking up this space, and there's other people like me. I want to be using it right now, but you're claiming it, so get at it. But he doesn't do that. He gets out of his truck, and the next thing you know, he has this, like, it was like a full loaf of bread, and he just casually walks over to this big gravel area. You know, there's like, you know, maybe 100 feet away from his truck. He walks all the way over to this gravel area, and he just starts ripping up the bread and throwing this bread out all over the gravel area, just throwing a whole loaf worth of bread in the gravel area for all of these blackbirds to come down and eat it. And I'm watching this, and like, really, this is what you're doing? It's like this guy was flexing and strutting around, trying, you know, like letting me know that, like, I know that he knows, and he knows that I know, and they're doing it on purpose, and it's kind of like taunting and mocking me, right? So rather than going and getting at the thing, he just knows that he got it locked down and there's not really much I can do about it. And he just, rather than going and getting at the panhandling, he's going to go over and just throw food at these birds. And if that's not weird enough, after he threw out, like, you know, all that whole loaf of bread, he tore it all up and threw it all on the ground, he walks back to his truck and he grabs a bag of chips, like a bag of chips, like pita chips or something. He rips open the bag and he walks over to the sidewalk, not right by where he had his booth, but on the opposite side of the road on the sidewalk / gravel area, and he literally dumps all of the chips on the sidewalk, not even in the gravel or anything, just literally just shaking the chips all over the sidewalk, all over. And I'm like, wow, I'm sure Walmart would love you right now, just dumping out all of this food on the ground. And then at some point, if the birds do eat all the food, there were at the time, there was like, you know, like 200 little blackbirds in their little flock, whatever you call it. All these little blackbirds, like 200 of them, they're just flying around the parking lot. Okay, well, I'm thinking, well, if all these birds eat all this food and then they decide to hang out in the parking lot, they're going to shit all over everybody's cars. At some point, birds poop, and if they eat all this food right here, they exert themselves when they take off or when they're landing or whatever, and then as they're taking off from tree limbs or something, well, they're going to poop all over everybody's car. So this guy, not only did he steal my spot, but now he's pouring all this food on the ground, where after a period of time, after these birds eat all this food, they're going to start shitting on everybody's car. Okay, so I'm like, and this guy's walking around like he's strutting around doing this, and I know if I'm being watched and this is all orchestrated, they're trying to mess with me and trying to trigger me and make me angry or go out and confront him, right? I'm not going to fall for it, but I am observing it. I'm going to observe every. So he dumps out the chips, and then the next thing, you think, okay, well, he dumped all that. You would think, okay, maybe now he'll go sit down and get at it. Well, he didn't do that either. He decided to slowly start strutting and walking, and he went inside Walmart, where he disappeared. He just went inside Walmart. His booth's just sitting there, and he's blocking off the whole thing. Well, I'm aware of everything that's going on, so me being me, it's like, well, I'm not going to let them win on that front. So, okay, well, for all I know, he's literally just going to take his sweet-ass time. He's got his phone. People are going to be watching me, and they're going to let him know what I'm doing. So, you know, if I decide to just sit there and not do anything, well, for all I know, he could be in there for 45 minutes before I see him again. Okay, so who knows what he's up to. I decide, okay, well, I got my sign ready. Well, I'm going to go out there, and I stood exactly right where he poured the chips, but a little bit behind it, so he got all these chips and shit in front of me. I didn't go stand by his booth. It was like on the opposite side of the road, but I was standing on this other side by where all the chips he just dumped, and I started standing there with my sign. And so I stood there. It took him about 10 or 15 minutes to show up. But in that time span, I made like $5. I had one person show up and give me I think it was like $3 or $5 or something. And at some point, you know, I'm out there. I'm just doing it because I know I'm being watched. I know this is all orchestrated. And I'm not going to let them win that way. So I'll take, if you're however long you're going to be in the store, the better. I'll stand out here until you come back. If you want to take your sweet time and take 45 minutes, I will stand here for 45 minutes and I will make as much as I can. But at the same time, if you know, he goes in and then he gets a text message, well, Brandon's standing out there anyway, so don't take your time. Whatever you're trying to get in there, get it done with and get it back out here as soon as possible. So I only had like 10, 15 minutes, right? So eventually I see him coming out, and he's just slowly walking really slow. And he didn't come, I know I know that he saw me, but he didn't come to me and approach me. He actually walked over to his truck, and I could literally hear him like mumbling to himself, like just going on this big rant to himself. And so as soon as he got to his truck, I know I'm using my peripherals. As soon as he gets to his truck and he takes care, you know, because he was carrying a bag of groceries, I'm just waiting for him to take care of his needs, whatever he's doing over there. The moment he starts walking towards me is the moment I'm going to walk away, which is exactly what I did. I'm not going to allow him. I'm not going to make this a big competitive thing. I'm not going to make an incident. I'm not going to make this a territorial thing. As soon as he's ready, I'm out. So I'm just sitting there listening to him because he's within earshot. I can hear what's going on. And so as soon as he gets his stuff loaded up and he closes the door and I look over and see him staring at me, I said, it's all yours, sir. And I just walked away and got in my van, and then I left. You know, as far as I knew, he was going to sit there all day long blocking me, and there's no point of me sitting there waiting for him to leave. So at that point in time, I had exerted a good chunk of the day, and I was tired of panhandling, and I believe that's where I stopped. I literally stopped panhandling and have not panhandled since. Okay, so because it's pretty obvious, you know, they're blocking me, and what's the point of going through all this energy and effort and stress if they're blocking me every day? Okay. So I ended up calling it. You know, I think in total between the 3 days of the attempts that I made in total, I only made like $45, barely anything. The money that I got, I just pretty much had to turn around and spend all of it between my fuel, having to fill my tank, and get food that I needed right then and there. I spent all the money I made as I got it. And so since then, I have not panhandled since then, and I've been slowly depleting my emergency funds because I have turned around. Okay, so everything that happened, crazy stuff, right? And then I decided I'm not going to panhandle anymore. So that was Sunday was the last day I panhandled, and it ended with that guy setting up the booth and blocking me and all that weird shit. And that's when I stopped. And then the following Monday, even though I wanted to panhandle, it was Veterans Day, and I did not want to stand out there panhandling if there are people out there who are going to perceive me as an imposter, and then they're going to take offense of it, especially on Veterans Day. So for my own safety and being smart about it, I did not panhandle on Veterans Day. Instead, I sat around at the city park and just hung out at the city park all day, whether watching YouTube videos or just hanging out and praying and meditating or doing stuff with my dog. I just hung out at the park all day. So and then the following day, I'm trying to speed up a little bit. There's more things there. And then another thing worth mentioning is this entire time I was in Cottonwood, even when I was out trying to panhandle, and also when I was sitting at the city park and driving around, there was 2 different airplanes. They were always the same airplane as far as their color pattern, so I always knew it was the same plane. Every day I was in Cottonwood, these planes were flying laps around my head from sunrise to sundown. It was both planes at different intervals throughout the day where they're just flying laps around my head, where by the beginning of the day to the end of the day, between these 2 planes, I've had a plane flying over my head over 60, 70 times by the time I go to sleep. Just this constant noise of airplanes flying laps around my head while I'm focused on what I'm focused on the ground. And it's just these same airplanes, and it's flying, and I'm not accusing one thing or the other, but I'm very suspicious of what it is. I don't know who it is, if they're on my team or the bad team, but my energy, you know, if they're on my team, well, it's probably because if they are on my team and they're observing from the top, well, I probably have a lot of bad guys around me, and they're running recon and intelligence, figuring out who's who, and then they have boots on the ground protecting me, or these airplanes are literally just not on my team, and it's part of the thing with fucking with me or trying to make me feel paranoid or whatever. But the planes was the entire time I was in Cottonwood for the 4 days, those planes was a constant. All day long, it was a white plane with blue wings, you know, like painted blue wings on the ends of the wings. It was blue. And then there was a white plane that had red. It was like, they're almost identical planes, but there was one with white and blue and one with white and red. And then there was a helicopter. There was a helicopter that I saw very regularly flying around, doing laps around me. You know, he wouldn't do a lap, but he'd fly by really low and right over my head and stuff. So there's that. And there's one other kind of weird thing. I ended up on the bike ride that I went on. You know, I had a route from Milwaukee. During the duration I was there, every morning and evening, I would take Milwaukee on almost a 4-mile bike ride. So he'd get around between 7 and 8 miles of running each day. But I had this route that I just kept going on, staying consistent, going on the same route. It was like I think it was on Sunday morning at like sunrise. I was riding down this road, and I was riding past like this. It was just like undeveloped land, and there's just thickets and brush and stuff. And I see this person laying in the bushes, covered with a blanket, and there's like some grocery sacks laying next to him. And it looks like somebody, you know, like the first encounter, first time I saw it, I thought it might have just been a transient, a homeless person who, like, you know, that's just where they chose to lay down, or maybe they got drunk and just decided to sleep there for the night and they were still asleep. You know, it's still relatively early, So, you know, they might just be passed out because they're just on drugs. You know, they're on drugs and they're passed out, or they've been drinking and they're passed out. So I see this person laying there as Malaki and I ride by. Weird. You know, that's unfortunate. But, you know, and then I go do my ride and ride back. So, and then where I'm going with this is that evening I took Malaki on, right before sunrise, I took Malaki on another bike ride. That day it had been like 75 degrees, so it was relatively warm, pretty warm that day. Well, when we went on that bike ride, it went on the exact same route. That person was still laying there in the exact same position, still covered by their blanket. You can't even see their feet or their head. It's just the entire body was covered with a blanket. But it's clearly there's somebody underneath it, because it's like person was like, looked like they're like, you know, around 6 feet tall, or maybe a little shorter or taller, but it looked like you could clearly tell it was a person. Weird. And then just like, yeah, I could make a report on this. I could call the police and all that, but considering everything might not be as it appears, I have already tried talking to police in the past, and all my bad experiences with police, where I just don't know if at this point in time, I have no idea who I can trust and who I can't trust. And the fact that Jerry Durgan's still walking free and I'm in my current situation, why would I go talk to the police or anybody about anything I encountered? It doesn't matter how extreme it is or what. Why would I call the police and try and get myself involved in anything when there's a whole lot of uncertainty and uncertain things happening around me that I have no idea? So I see this person, you know, that evening. So it had been all day long, and this person had been laying in the sun under their blanket all day long and had not budged. So as far as I'm concerned, this might be a dead person covered by this blanket. Am I going to call the police or report it? I could have, but at the same time, I'm wondering, well, I'm not going to because of my own situation, and at the same time, I'm wondering, what about all these people that have been driving or past, you know, I'm near this main road. You got all these people driving by. You got other police cars driving by because, you know, they're doing their patrols. You got fire trucks and ambulances driving by. Not one person has noticed this individual who has even cared to see if this person is okay or if they're alive. Not one person. So it had been 12 hours this person's laying there. Maybe nobody cares. Maybe they just think somebody's asleep. Okay. Rather than reporting it, I was like, okay, I wonder if this person will be here tomorrow morning. Sure enough, that person was there the following morning. Had not moved. So I'm like, wow, there's literally, this person, for all I know, this person is fucking dead. Dead. And I could go report it, but at the same time, I ain't touching this, nothing. I want to see how fucked up society is, where, okay, I could report it, but I'm not from here, and I don't know what the hell is really going on. And I'm really wondering if society is so lost and broken where there can literally be a dead person laying off the side of the road for a day and a half and not one person will call 911 and report it. You know, so all these people, I'd even, at the time that I was riding my bike past this person, I literally saw a police officer. It was like right before then or right after, but they were going the opposite direction, too fast for me to intercept them or wave at them. But I saw a police officer drive by, and then a short time later, a fire truck went by. So all these, you know, so I know for a fact law enforcement has driven by this individual and a fire truck had driven by this individual multiple times throughout the day over a period of 24 hours. And I'm wondering, are all of these people not observant to where they don't notice that this person has not moved for 24 hours and nobody has even cared to go kick the person and ask them if they're breathing or awake? Now, I mean, I could have done it, but again, I'm observing and testing. And I don't know what the fuck's going on. But none of that was happening, so I have a very bad impression that this town, either that's not, it could be a dead person, and or it might not be a dead person, but if I have eyes on me, and they see me riding past this individual, and it's all a setup, and everybody's wondering what I'll do about it, well, because I'm being watched, and you guys are watching me, that means that you guys know about it, which means if you guys see that I'm tuned into it, it means that you guys should be aware of it, which means you guys should go investigate it and deal with it, because that's not my position. That's not what I'm here for. And the fact that nothing was done about it for over 24 hours really made me wonder where people are really standing. Is this just, you know, is this an orchestrated thing, or is this a dead person, that somebody that went through something and they died here and they either got dumped there, or, you know, they got poisoned or drunk and then they just died, and then society as itself has so much apathy, they don't care about anybody, anybody but themselves, where they can literally see somebody laying there and they just keep driving, which includes law enforcement and firefighters and stuff. Everybody just keeps driving and just leaves a dead body laying there covered with a blanket. So that's where I'm coming from with that. So that was another weird thing. When at some point, you know, after making these observations, I came in my van and I started calling all this out. That person I can't remember if that person was still there that evening, still buried under that blanket. Or no, I didn't even look. I don't even think I went. I didn't even ride by there and look that evening. I took Malaki somewhere else that evening for his bike ride, for his exercise, and I didn't even go look that evening. And then the following morning, I rode past there and that person was gone. So was the sacks of food. So, but I had called that out. You know, after seeing this that second day, when I got back to my van, I started calling all this out, saying, you know, something needs to be done about this. And if you guys are literally, this is all something orchestrated and you're sitting back, not doing anything about it because you're waiting for me to call 911 and get myself pulled in the middle of some investigation or witness report and shit, and then you're judging me based off my inaction, even though you guys know that's there. Well, I'm aware of all that, and I called all that out from inside my van. And I was like, if you guys are following me and you're aware of it, you cannot blame me or judge me for not calling 911. Because if you're following me and I'm tuned in, that means you guys are literally aware of this, and there's no reason for me to get involved in it. Go take care of it. I talked about, you know, I said that, more or less, that's what I said out loud in my van, and I didn't go check on it that evening. But the following morning, I went by there and checked on it, and it was that individual was gone. So whatever it was, no idea. But that following morning, you know, the day after Veterans Day, so Tuesday, I wanted to try panhandling again. I wanted to try doing Walmart again. So that previous night, rather than sleeping at Walmart's parking lot, I slept at Home Depot's parking lot. So when I got up that morning, you know, I took care of Malaki and I's needs, went and took him on his bike ride, and then I went straight to Walmart because I just wanted to see if I could get a chance. Well, that morning, so this past Tuesday, that was the 13th. Tuesday, when is it? It was the 12th. No, the 12th. So Tuesday the 12th, November 12th. So, all right. So, so November 12th, that morning, like I was just getting in this funk. So it's the day after Veterans Day, and I'm like out of money. And then after these 4 days of being in Cottonwood and observing all of this weird stuff, all this weird stuff that had happened since I got to Cottonwood, and then all the weird stuff that happened in Page, Arizona, when I was panhandling there, this intuition, this energy started telling me it's time for me to start making a video. I need to make a video and start talking about this. Okay, so that was in my brain that morning, where I was thinking, okay, well, all this weird stuff's going on in Cottonwood. I'm not having any luck here, so maybe I just need to I need to just start tapping. It's rather than going out and panhandling and exerting all my time and energy into this, I need to think of a different strategy, which includes telling everybody about this and asking for help. But I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to make any money panhandling, and it's just wasting time. And I do have money left over in my emergency funds. Well, let me just go. I'm going to go spend some of my money filling my gas tank, and I'm going to drive all the way back to Sedona. And then once I get to Sedona, I will just use my emergency funds and buy I won't splurge. I'm just going to buy as much food as I need to day by day, buy the food that I need as I need it, and invest anywhere from 3 to 5 days towards this project, which is what you're watching now, to let everybody know. And then maybe I can get myself out of this hole, because it's very clear that the bad guys are shutting off my ability to go stand out and panhandle and actually make any money. And all of this was, I mean, I had all my suspicions, everything was saying yes, and then the last little nail, hitting the hammer, the nail in the hammer, the last thing that really just made it clear that this is what's going on. Well, I went to that Tuesday, the 12th, I went to Walmart that morning after I gave Malaki his exercise, just to see if the spot was available. And not only was it not available, but as I was turning off the main road to go up this other road that goes into Walmart, they had one person panhandling at the traffic light. They had another person panhandling at the spot that I had been wanting to go. And then they had a third person panhandling on the far far side of the parking lot where there was another exit. It wasn't like that. There was another entrance exit on the backside, but it was not nearly as busy as far as traffic volume. So not an ideal spot to panhandle, but they had somebody sitting there. And then, okay, well, that's a waste of time. It's pretty clear that they got that locked down. Well, then when I went to the other grocery store, they had another guy sitting on his ground, just sitting on the ground. He looked like a tweaker. He was just sitting there like rocking back and forth on the sidewalk, one of those other places that I had tried before at that other grocery store. So they had that locked down. And by that point, I was like, okay, there's no point. There's no point even trying, because I'm not going to go stand somewhere where there's not much traffic and just stand there for the hell of it and not make any money. So I was like, okay, so I got to go. I have to tap into my emergency funds. I have to tell this story. So I ended up going to the gas station, filling my tank with my debit card, and I drove all the way back to Sedona. And so as I'm driving to Sedona, I'm going through this mindset, okay, I got to share my story, right? I have to talk about this. The bad guys, they're clearly mad, the devil and the higher guys, and they're watching all this. They're mad because I'm not surrendering, and they're not breaking my mind or my spirit. And so as I'm driving into Sedona, right, like I'm going into with the mindset, okay, I got to go find somewhere. I'm going to go somewhere, and I'm going to go hike somewhere. I'm going to go hike somewhere like, all my other videos where I'm outside, outdoors, where I'm recording outside, so you have nature in the background to look at. Well, it'd be cool to go hike somewhere with the red rocks in the background. Imagine, rather than being in my van, I would sit somewhere scenic and beautiful where you have all the Sedona red rocks in the background. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to some trailhead. I'm going to go hike like a mile or two up into the, down some trail. Just go hike a mile or two, get off the trail, and then find a cool spot and then do my recording. And then once I'm done with my recording, I'll hike back down to my van, get the videos assembled, and then eventually get it uploaded to you guys. So that's my plan, right? So that's what I'm going to do when I'm going back to Sedona. And as I come back into Sedona, and I'm going past the first grocery store, there is a panhandler in the one spot that I would probably panhandle if I was going to do it in Sedona. That's probably where I would do it. And as I'm driving, I'm driving down the main road, so it's 2 lanes each direction. So you got 2 lanes of traffic, and there's a turn off to go into the grocery store. Well, there's a guy sitting there, and as I'm driving by, he literally turns to look at me as I'm driving down the road, and he puts up the peace sign. He looks at me as he's going by. He's like this, right? Literally makes eye contact with me when he has no reason to. I'm just a random person, as everybody else driving on the road. A lot of traffic. He has no reason to look specifically at me and go like this. Kind of like a flexing on me like, what's up, we're already here. That's all it is. If you read between the lines doing this, he's not saying peace. It's essentially, yeah, we're already here, and we got you blocked off, buddy. What are you going to do about it? So this is what I'm doing about it. I'm making my video rather than competing with them or falling into those traps of getting in an incident with these people. Okay, well, I'll just turn around and tell everybody about it, and then we'll see what happens. And so when I came into Sedona, I saw that, and I just kept driving through Sedona and went to some trailhead. And like I said, my goal was to just hike up and start talking. Well, when I got there, I've got my parking spot, got Malaki in his harness, and we take off hiking up the trail. We hiked like 1.5 miles or more, and as we're hiking, all of a sudden it starts getting really windy. It gets so windy to such an extent where all of a sudden I'm like, I can't record out here. You're gonna hear nothing but wind, wind noise hitting the microphone, which would be very distracting for you as the viewer. You wouldn't be able to hear me. You'd just be hearing wind blowing on the microphone. But as this is happening, it's just getting perpetually windier and windier. And if you remember, if you know anything about God, or not God, if you know anything about the devil or Satan, and you've heard that he's like the prince of the air, or he controls the air. Well, if you just think about the spiritual realm and spiritual warfare and these potentially other things going on around us, well, how do I know the devil wasn't just making it super windy because he knew my intentions was to go hike up there and start telling everybody about all this stuff. So it gets really windy when I finally get into position, right? Weird. And then at some point I sit there waiting. It's not getting any less windy. So I'm like, okay, well, this ain't gonna work out. Maybe I need to walk back down to my van and either relocate or maybe just do it inside my van. Maybe I'll just do it inside my van. That way I can eliminate the risk of having any type of distractions, right? So I start walking back down, and as I get, about halfway, all of a sudden the wind's dead. And then all of a sudden it's like this energy's hitting me, a spiritual attack. Like, well, walk back up there, Brandon. It's not windy anymore. Walk back up there and try to do your recording. Who's to say if I did that, as soon as I get back up there, it starts getting windy again? Well, I'm smart enough to know what's going on. You know, this is a spiritual attack. There are things happening that our eyes can't see. Okay, well, I'm not going to take that bait. I'm not going to hike back up. I'm just going to go with what I originally said. I'm going to go in my van, and, you know, my van, it's like a little private studio, and so I'm going to go in my van and start talking. So I did. I hiked all the way back down to my van, got my tripod set up, and then I started recording, right? So if you remember, if you literally go back to the first episode, as far as this, you know, this four-part video series, and you look at my very first thing when I said at the beginning that I said at the beginning of the first episode that I had tried starting to do my recording the previous day, but I was encountering camera issues. Okay, well, so now we're at that point again. So when I got in my van and I started doing my recording like you see me now, when I started speaking, my camera, for the first time ever, I've had this camera all the way since back in Hawaii. So I've had this camera for like almost a decade. And for the first time that I'd ever used this camera, as I was speaking, and I was really getting into a flow, and I really got into it, all of a sudden, I know I'd made like 15 minutes in. I know at the 15-minute mark, all of a sudden my camera shuts off. I'm like, what the hell? And so I turn the camera back on and look at it, and of that recording, you know, I had just spoke for about 15 minutes. Only 3 minutes had been recorded, and then it stopped recording for no reason whatsoever, and then the camera sat idle for about 10 minutes, and then it just automatically shut off on for itself to save the battery. That's just part of its default mechanism, but it shut off randomly. And so everything, I had lost about 10 minutes worth of speaking, and that's a lot of words. So that really just threw me off and messed with my flow and got me frustrated, but I didn't give up, right? So I started doing it again, and I started speaking, and then it happened again. I spoke for about 10 minutes, and the camera shut off, and I only had a minute, right? And then it happened in total, I tried 3 separate times. Of 2 of those times was with the camera just shutting off, but before that, it was some guy had showed up with a loud tractor, and so there was 3 different attempts for them to take me off my path, where I had 3 different cuts. I tried speaking. First day was a guy in this loud diesel tractor that came out of nowhere, and he parked it right next to me and left the engine idling until, you know, I shut off the thing, and then eventually he wandered off. So that messed up my first take, and then the second take, when I started doing it again, that's when the camera, the memory or whatever, it only recorded a few minutes, and then it just sat idle without letting me know. So I wasted a whole bunch of time speaking. Camera shuts off. I try doing it again, and then on my third attempt, it messed up. And at that point in time, just this energy is just hitting me, and it's flooding my mind, telling me like, dude, the devil, the dark forces, they are so fucking angry with me right now for talking about all this stuff, and they're literally sending some type of energy on my camera that is disrupting it. Whatever that is, I don't, what it mean, I don't know. It just happened. And I like I said at the beginning of this thing, I spoke for like half an hour and only recorded like 3 to 5 minutes worth of footage. And the rest of the 25 minutes, I spoke into thin air, right? Because the things I was saying, if bad guys are listening, they were doing something to try to interfere. And then once all that happened, rather than getting upset and trying it again, and just persistently doing it and getting more upset, energy, God, whoever, something that's high energy told me, okay, you can see what's going on, just stop, and you'll just stop entirely and just chill out the rest of the day. You're going through a lot. Put your camera away, and then we'll just observe, and then we'll maybe try again tomorrow. And then in the meantime, okay, so that's what I did. I just pretty much did nothing. I tried all this stuff, and then I stopped trying to record on the 12th. And then eventually, it got dark, and then I just went to bed that night. The following morning, I took care of Malaki's needs, took him for a bike ride, and then my energy is telling me that I need to try again. So this time I went to the public library, and I went into the library and got all my computer battery charged and all my camera batteries charged. And I changed out the memory card. So I changed out the memory card that I'd been using the previous day and went into this with full batteries. And so after all that was done, I left the library, and then I pretty much set up. You know, I set up, got this going, and I haven't encountered any issues with my camera since then. You know, because if the bad guys in them, they were making that attempt the day before, well, they really tried. And I feel I'm shouting out. I was like, okay, if this happens again, I'm trying with a new memory card and full batteries. So if you guys try again, I will know for a fact that you guys are doing something to affect my battery or my camera's ability to record when I've never encountered this before. So I threw all that out there. I called them out. If there's this dark energy doing it, tell them to go away. And since then, I haven't had any issues through this entire recording. And so since Wednesday, November 13th, so November 13th, 14th, and November 15th, which is today, I've been hanging out, just talking every single day. I've just been talking, and I've exerted, well, I'm guessing this is about 9 hours. I've been speaking for around 9 hours now in the past 3 days, getting this message delivered, and now I feel like I can conclude all of that. And I don't have to talk about anything else that's really happened around me, but right now, as I'm starting to conclude this, you guys got to understand, I hope you can see what I'm dealing with. There's some real shit going on, and bad guys out there are following me around, and not only are they trying to poison me and poison my dog, try to murder us, make us disappear, or entrap us to commit a crime or something. They're doing that. I hope you guys can see that. And now that I've shared all of this, you guys gotta understand, I am broke, man. I have like between $200 and $250 left of my reserve funds, and that's gonna go very quickly, especially because I still have to get this all assembled and uploaded to YouTube, and that's gonna take multiple days to do all this, and I'm just gonna be relying on my reserve funds while I'm doing this. So by the time I'm done with this project and have all of these episodes uploaded for you guys to watch, I'm probably gonna have $150 left maybe, and then from there that's all I have, that's supposed to be my emergency fund in case I get in a tight situation, you know. So this is kind of an emergency, but once that's it, then from that point forward, if I run out, I literally have to panhandle every single day from that point forward in order to continue proceeding forward. In order for me to keep moving forward, that's going to be my only way to do it. And it's really hard to function in this life in this state of being this broke, and having this feeling like everybody's against me, and having nobody to talk to, and being treated the way I am. I'm at the end of the line, man. How much further do you think I can really go when I'm already down to 125 to 120 pounds? How much longer do you think I can really go? Even if I have the willpower and I want to keep going, what if my body says, no more, Brandon, I can't do it anymore. My heart, my nervous system, any of my organs, is just too much for me to keep going, and anything can happen. And now, as I'm concluding this video, if you're someone who has watched all of these 4 segments, and you've heard this, this is going on around hour number 9, I'm guessing, and you've heard me speak for 9 hours, this is your opportunity to come forward and help me. You need to do whatever, if you want to help me, and you try to reach out to me and you're not hearing back from me, understand, if you're not hearing back from me, it's because I'm not receiving your messages. If you're trying to speak to me and trying to reach out to me and I'm not returning your calls or emails or anything, it's because I'm not receiving your messages. Meaning, do not give up, and do not be discouraged. You got to keep trying. If you're trying to send me an email, or you're trying to message me on YouTube and your comments keep disappearing, or your messages keep disappearing, or you're not hearing back from me, don't get discouraged. Just try again. Try and contact me. Write your message in a different way. Just keep persistent until eventually until your message sticks and you can still see it there. If it's been disappearing but now it's staying, okay, good. But if not, just keep trying. Or you can try contacting me by email if you have to. Or if you can't even contact me by the internet or social media, but I'm in Sedona, well, consider it a personal mission of yours to come find me. And if you can find me, you know what my vehicle looks like. You can come say hello, say, hi, Brandon. I've heard your message. I'm here. I found you. I have some resources for you, whether it's $50, $100, $500, $1,000, whatever you got that you can afford that's not going to affect you, but it will help me. I need that help right now, and I'm just throwing that out there. If you're one of those people that want to help me, this is the opportunity. It's right now. It's not 3 months from now. You can't think about this for 3 months from now and then decide you want to try helping, or 6 months later you want to wait and see what happens to me for 6 months and then you're going to decide. Now. It's now. Right now or never. It's now or never, and whatever. If it's nobody and I get no help, okay, it's never. Okay, well then eventually I'm going to die, and then once I die, everybody gets to find out if I really am who I say I am. And if I am who I say I am, that's, if you're on the opposing team and you're amongst the bad ones, I'm just letting you know you're fucked. If you're amongst those who chose to sit back and watch me starve to death, or you're amongst those who chose to try and destroy me and do everything you could to sabotage my life, well, you're done. If I die, and everything I tried to do to try to, I tried to get help and nobody helped me. I tried to help fix things that are going on in this world. I tried waking people up. I tried setting them free from their cages, and you're just sitting back watching all this, and you still perceive me as the bad guy, and you just sit back and watch me go die alone. I die alone with my dog, and then at some point somebody comes and finds my dead body, and then somebody takes my dog. If that's your situation, well, if that's what's happened, just know God's watching. All the angels and everybody's watching this happen. So once I'm dead and my spirit leaves my vassal, my avatar, this human flesh body, once my spirit's gone, well, I go up home, and then who's to say that, something something with biblical proportions comes down and fucking fire just starts raining down from the sky, and humanity gets just wiped out because you guys all failed your tests. That's the message. Are you going to help me, or are you not going to help me? Because I am on the edge, man. And I'm ready to die. Like, psychologically, spiritually, I'm ready to go whenever. I have 45 seconds left, and once that's it, once it hits that, that's it. So, I am spiritually, mentally ready to go. How that's going to go down, I don't know. I don't want to die. I'm trying to survive. I've been doing everything I can to endure through this, and just to endure the difficulties. That way, to endure and learn and allow everybody to witness that I'm still alive and standing when I shouldn't be, as a testimony to God's existence and the blessings over my life. This is your opportunity to find the truth, if you haven't already, and decide which side of the fence you're going to stand on. And if you want any type of redemption, you better start helping me now, because